Morning. It is 9:30, and I'm calling the December 17th, 2024 meeting of the Clay County Board of Commissioners to order. First item on our agenda is approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion to second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next, we have citizens to be heard. Do we have any citizens present in our meeting this morning who want to address any issue that is not on our agenda? Steve, we got anybody online?
We do not, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Next, approval of payment of bills and vouchers.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. And next, we have approval of, motion passes. Next, we have approval of minutes from November 12th, 2024, work group session, and November 26th, 2024, and December 3rd, 2024.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, I have motion to second. Any further discussion? Not all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, next up, we have the annual treatment court update. And Judge Merkin, Judge Rosenfeld, and Judge Lesher here?
He will be. He had a hearing at 9:30, so
Well, they're keeping him busy now that he's got a real job.
yeah. So he'll be here shortly.
Okay.
It was only going to be a few minutes.
And Crystal Cadry.
Kadri, yep.
Cadry.
Good morning, and thank you, commissioners, for meeting with us from treatment courts. I think I can speak on behalf of Judge Merkins, Judge Leeser, and Judge Rosenfeld that we appreciate your continued support in making treatment courts in Clay County successful. I do believe we are changing lives, keeping the community safer, and working on ending the addiction cycle.
Crystal, can you maybe talk a little closer to your mic?
Oh, perfect.
There you go.
Is that better?
That's better.
Okay. I just kind of wanted to go over just a few things, a few updates that I've noted in your forms that you received. Just wanted to discuss drug court. We are making some major changes to both drug court and veterans court. Judge Rosenfeld is going to be taking over at the beginning of the year for both drug court and veterans court. I think I sent an email. Tomorrow is our last treatment court hearing with Judge Merkins. You're all invited to attend that, and we do have one graduation, so we'll be celebrating two things. I just want to also note, we've had a few additional, Josh Arvidsson, Jackson Elmquist, and Eric Zimmel are now all new to the team as well. Just for your information, we received 100% of the funding formula last year and this year. From the state, so we received $130,000, which previously we were only receiving 88% of our funding, which was at $116,000. And then we just received a 10% increase in November from the SEAO. So that was an additional $13,000 as noted in my budget. We plan to have, in drug court, we plan to have foundational training to learn the brand new best practices that are put on by the, they're called All Rise now, but it was the National Addiction Drug Court Professionals. National Association, I apologize, of Drug Court Professionals. That was originally their term, and now they're called All Rise. And so we should have that occur this spring. It's free. They have someone come here to Moorhead to do that foundational training for 3 days. So we're really excited to have that opportunity and to learn some new things that maybe we need to learn and make some changes. As it relates to Veterans Court, we're still working on screening individuals for the program. We have one participant right now in Becker County that was a Clay County file, and he's doing well. So our main struggle in Veterans Court and why we don't have very many participants is a lot of our eligible veterans actually live in North Dakota, and so that kind of creates that barrier where we can't serve them here. But I hope to work on some of that within the next year, including updating the manual and the handbook to ensure that we are following best practices. The use of those cannabis funds. And then I finally just wanted to reiterate where we are with DWI court. As you can see from the updates and the proclamation that we have requested from this, the commissioners, we've been busy going through the process of starting the DWI court. We first applied for a DPS grant and successfully received funding in the amount of $150,000 from DPS. That gave us the opportunity to implement and hire both a probation DOC agent and a compliance officer before we went to training in October. We were able to take 10 people from Clay County to that DWI court training in Fort Collins, and I can tell you that that training was phenomenal. I know Judge Leeser can certainly add to that training being so beneficial, having 10 people from Clay County listening to the same information about addiction and going through that same process. I think that gave us the ability to be really cohesive in how we wanted to start this DWI court program. So as part of the requirements for implementing and finalizing our DWI court, we need to get a proclamation from the county. Another part is we need to finish our handbook and our manual and get a memorandum of understanding from the team members to be signed. Once we do all of that, hopefully by the end of this year, we can send that off to the Treatment Court Initiative and the Judicial Council, and then once that all happens, we'll be operational. And my hope is, our goal is to have that operational. We'll have the Judicial Council meeting on the 16th of January, and hopefully be operational after that and get started with our DWI court. I'm starting to already get rumblings. I'm starting to get emails from people saying, can we be staffed for DWI court? So I know that there's interest already in Clay County, but I hope to have, a little bit more of a marketing once we become operational, to let people know, to let defense attorneys and prosecutors know that the DWI court is operational. So with all of those updates, I don't know if you want to speak or if I can I'll just finish. We're requesting, so at this time, we're requesting the $30,000 that we continue to have for the Clay County Drug and Veterans Court. That's already what you are providing for us. For now, we are not seeking any monetary support for the Clay County DWI court program, as we have not been operational yet. And we think that we'll be able to be successful with that $150,000. If that were to change during 2025, obviously we will reach out, but we believe that since that financial support will likely be needed next fiscal year, when we know a little bit more about how much we need to spend in that DWI court program.
Any questions, comments?
Excuse me.
Frank?
You said you got 16 treatment centers opening up, or where are they gonna be at, do you know?
I think their goal is to have them in treatment or in programs that don't have treatment courts in their counties. So we're working towards that. I believe there are some. I don't have exact which ones those are going to be. You don't have to apply until March 1st for the next biennium, so we won't know until March 1st who those people are that are working towards that. But I did have a meeting with multiple counties, so the counties that don't have treatment courts in the 7th District, which include Wadena, Benton, Todd, and Douglas, and I've met with all of them, and I'm hoping that if it's not going to happen this year, it will happen next year, that we'll have some kind of additional treatment courts in those counties.
Are you talking 16 more for the state?
Correct.
Okay.
And that's going to come out of specifically cannabis funding. In the history of treatment courts, you usually had to apply for a grant, and then the state would fund you once you've become operational within the grant. And that's not, so getting this additional money, you don't have to go through that step. You can just get into the funding formula through state funding, which again creates just a little less work, I think, because you don't have to write and be involved in a grant. Although the DPS grant, they're very successful. As you know, I provided about 9 pages of documentation in a summary of the evaluation of treatment courts as part of the proclamation request here today. And so the evaluation of those findings just kind of says a lot about treatment courts. One, how they save lives and how they save the community money. I can tell you that I think the one thing that stood out to me, and this was from 2014, we haven't received findings sooner than that, but I think that it still is applicable here today. Yearly savings at that point was $700,000 for the state of Minnesota.
2014? That was the
Correct. This is a 2014 finding, but it was specific.
10-year-old.
Correct. But it was specific to the 9 DWI court programs that were in operation at that time. And now there are we will be the 15th DWI court. And there isn't one in Cass County. So I'm really looking forward, and I'm excited to be able to provide that opportunity. And I appreciate your support in the DWI court program. In our training, the one thing that we noticed is, and the one thing that caught my eye specifically had to do with the fact that it really does save lives for everyone, because the fact that DWI court is, or DWIs are dangerous to everyone, not only the drivers, but the people out on the roads with them. And so to be able to have that opportunity and to lower the recidivism rates of our DWI court, or I keep saying that, our DWIs in Clay County will help everybody in the long run.
Commissioner Campbell?
Thank you. Obviously, the record speaks highly of the success in the drug court and in the veterans court. The numbers speak for themselves in terms of why it should be funded. I'm curious now with the DWI court, what's the process for, how does one qualify, for lack of a better word? Who qualifies to get into that program?
Sure, and Judge Leeser can also speak to this, because we had to make some changes with which judges were going to preside over which treatment courts, but I believe the focus right away will be on the felony DWIs, right? So the people who've been charged with their 4th offense in a 10-year time period and are facing a felony. And so those will be the individuals that will initially be eligible for screening. The screening process is essentially an email to Ms. Kadri saying, from a defense attorney, a probation agent, a prosecutor, a social worker, saying this person currently has this charge, there's a history of addiction, could this person be screened for DWI court? That screening process then involves the chemical use assessment, a risk assessment, and then of course the team meets and ultimately makes a decision on whether or not that person will be accepted. I will just note for all of you, I've been in court proceedings where it's a felony DWI and the defense attorney and the prosecutor are saying, Judge, we'd like about a 2-month continuance. And I'm like, oh, okay, what, to be screened for the future DWI court? Yes. So there are already individuals that have identified that this might be a program for them. And there's a significant need, as Ms. Kadri indicated. There's no DWI court on the Fargo side. And drinking and driving numbers have essentially stayed the same or increased over the course of time. They're not going down. And so there are individuals in our community that really need this court. And I think we'll be better served through the DWI court than trying to figure out a way to get them into the drug court. Because it is different. The alcohol, the drinking and driving is different than the drug court participants.
Just a question, will driving while intoxicated on marijuana, that would stay in a DWI court, correct?
Correct.
Yes, we talked a little bit about those certain participants that, it could be drug-related or, alcohol-related, and they strongly recommended that keeping them in DWI court because the act was driving. Not so much concerned about what the substance was that they used, it's the driving that makes it that much more dangerous. And so keeping them in DWI programming is kind of, for the most part, where we go, except for your handful of people that they have a long history of drug-related offenses perhaps, and they get one DWI. That person may not be, they might be more appropriate for drug court, but a majority, it is going to be DWI court-based.
Well, and I understand the focus on felons because there's got to be consequences if you don't comply with what the court is trying to get you to do. And those consequences are only relevant when you look at felony punishment, so.
But it's more, the penalty is more severe.
Correct. And
Yes.
there's and again, I'll let Judge Leeser speak to this, but of course, we want to start with the felonies, but, you know, that second degree, that gross misdemeanor, and you're knocking on the door of a felony, is also a really good opportunity, and I believe is something that the DWI court does want to explore on how to incentivize those individuals to get into the court before they get to that felony level. And so, starting with the felonies, because those are easier to incentivize participation, but looking at ways to incentivize that gross misdemeanor will also be something that the court will be looking towards.
I realize that we should help all these people, but I would almost think that after the second offense already, we should be looking at these. I mean, you say we're waiting until the fourth offense before we go for this drug court thing.
And part of it is the criminal penalties associated with your second offense. Right now, an individual who receives a second DWI offense might be looking at a very short period of time of jail and unsupervised probation. And so comparing that with the 18-month high-intensity DWI court program, that's where we have to figure out ways to incentivize. There's been some very high-profile DWI cases in Minneapolis where individuals have crashed into bars, individuals have died, and there is some talk that some of these penalties for repeat offenders is going to increase. And if that happens, which we have nothing to do with, of course, that's set by the legislature, but if that happens, that will give us a little bit more to work with in terms of incentivizing individuals to be a part of this program. We agree with you, but we also recognize that we have to try to figure out ways to get people into this program.
Commissioner Campbell.
Yeah, thank you. I do know that there's, in the drug court and veterans court, there's an awful lot of work on the part of a lot of people that are part of that program. And in doing that, and Judge, you're talking about the fourth degree felon charges right now as being the targeted group. What kind of numbers are we talking about there, and how does that equate to the ability to staff all of that with the number of people involved with each of those cases?
Sure. Do you want to?
Yeah, we're hoping to be between 25 and 30 is our maximum, just based on the agent primarily, the agent's availability. I'm always open if that ends up being, we are at that high mark. That's happened a couple times in drug court where there's been some discussion whether or not we would add more onto it. We haven't gotten there yet, but if that were to come to fruition, obviously we would bring that up and add more to our plate if that's something that we needed to do.
So right now you're targeting for that 20 to 25 range.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, or Commissioner Mojo?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for providing the evaluation of findings. I think as we talk statewide about what is the most appropriate level of care for folks in different situations, it's really great to see the outcomes. And I know this board has had, your courts have a champion with Commissioner Gross. He's attended almost all of the graduations, and if you've not had an opportunity to attend any of those graduations. It's quite a powerful movement. So really excited about the securing of that grant. That's a huge number as we get this thing off the ground. And I agree. I think there's some critical components that make it a little trickier in regards to the DWI court versus the other courts. But I think the outcomes to that, once we get through it, will really be speaking for themselves. So thank you for your initiative really in lifting this.
And I want to mention that the Public Safety Committee with AMC, during our meeting we had last week, the specialty courts were brought up. There's going to be some participation from us within the statewide grouping on this, but this is something that is really being supported by our counties as well. And we're going to make sure that the education on the efficacy of these courts comes to our membership in the AMC, so.
Just one more comment on that. You know, when you go to those graduations, I mean, that's almost like going to your grandchild's kindergarten graduation. I mean, you really get involved in those people and what they have done to correct themselves, and appreciate what you guys are doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. If I could, I would really encourage you, this graduation tomorrow is going to be incredibly special. This particular individual was in my courtroom being sentenced on a felony drug offense on a plea agreement that called for him to go to prison. And he had done a lot of work while the case was pending to get himself clean and sober. He had relapsed after having a period of sobriety. And it's a plea agreement. My hands are tied. He's going to prison. The defense attorney said, you know, this is a person that I think should be in drug court, and for one reason or another just didn't get there. And the defendant read a statement in my courtroom, and after he read that statement, the prosecutor stopped the proceedings and said, I think we should look at this guy for drug court a second time. And he was accepted into the program and has had no violations, has just performed remarkably well. And I think it's going to be a really special graduation, and it really shows how powerful the program really is. So I would encourage you to attend if it works for your schedule.
Commissioner,
Yeah, unfortunately, I end up having to be out of town every Wednesday when you have this for another meeting that I serve on, or committee they serve on. But I have had a chance to be at them, and they are remarkable. The stories that are told are incredible. So,
Commissioner Kravinoff?
Yeah, just, again, having been around this some, just again, a big thank you. Your last story there, just, the thank you was, thanks for giving people second chances. And means a lot.
Well, and we're very grateful to Ms. Kadri. She has been an excellent coordinator for our treatment courts, and she has really been the one behind the scenes doing all of the work to get the DWI court up and running. So thank you, Ms. Kadri.
Mr. Chair, I would
Mr.
move,
Campbell.
I'd move Resolution 2024-36.
Second the motion?
Motion is second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the job you're doing.
Mr. Chair, I might really quickly, if it speaks to the testament of the quality of folks that this community is raising, having gone to middle school and high school with two judges who sit in Clay County, it's quite a remarkable thing as well to see the commitment that the young folks in our community grow up to do amazing things, and it's just really cool. So I could tell some stories, but I won't.
Stories offline. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. We are going to have a public meeting in 6 minutes. We'll take a brief break until.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I see Ms. McKay has got two items after that.
Oh,
that I
yeah.
think that we could maybe address just to keep the.
That'll work. Ms. McKay?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners.
right.
Thanks for allowing me to jump in. My agenda item was to approve to fill our position that's been just vacated. It's Public Health Strategist. She's resigning from her position. So this is a position that is grant funded We've had this position for a number of years, excuse me. So my request is that we could fill it. It's also budgeted in our 2025 budget.
All right, any questions or comments?
Move to approve.
All right, have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Not all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
To stay in compliance, we'll take a break for 5 minutes. Concession, 10:01. I'll entertain a motion to go into a public hearing now.
So move.
Second.
Have a motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Jason, we're going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chair. So thank you for having this public hearing for us. I just put a couple of slides together to kind of put us all on the same page of what we're asking and where we're headed before the public hearing gets started. So the idea is to update our tobacco ordinance. It is currently 12 years old. There's been quite a few different state laws and a national law raising the age to use to 21 that has happened over those 12 years. So that is the number one reason why we brought this forward. The second is we're always looking to protect kids, right? We're trying to make sure that addiction doesn't happen. And so we know that flavored tobacco is one of the big reasons why youth start using nicotine. So just to kind of put that in perspective as I go forward, I'll give you a little more information. Right now, what we have before you are two different choices. Just for sake of brevity, I call them Ordinance A and B. In Ordinance A, we would end the sale of all flavored tobacco. And you can see underneath that point, that is the line that is added to the ordinance. Flavored products, no person shall sell or offer for sale any flavored products. That is the line verbatim from the ordinance. In B, the idea would be to go after the vaping products, nicotine pouches, any future tobacco products that might come out in a flavored manner from the industry. And so this would include vaping. This would also include those kid-friendly nicotine pouches. And verbatim from the ordinance would be right there what you see, the add-on being excluding menthol cigarettes and flavored chewing tobacco. So that would be choice A versus choice B. Just to put flavored tobacco in a picture, we're talking any of this. Flavored tobacco can be anything from menthol cigarettes, flavored chewing tobacco. There are flavored cigars. There's also vaping is probably the most commonly known right now. And then Zen products as well are just one of the brands of nicotine pouches, which I'll talk about in just a second. So what's the deal with flavors? Just using Minnesota data, 85% of our 11th graders and 78% of our 8th graders currently use flavors if they smoke or vape or use any of these products. And so what we know is that the flavors attract youth, the nicotine provides the addiction, the chemicals that are actually in the product is what causes the disease and death that happen over time. One of the good pieces of news for Minnesota is that we have dropped our use of overall tobacco products from 20% to 18%. One of the bad pieces of news that go hand in hand with that, though, is the level of addiction is growing very quickly. Menthol was the original flavor way back when. It was added specifically to make it easier to start smoking. And it was therefore made it harder to quit. There's lots of studies that have shown that it at least doubles initiation and doubles how hard it is to quit smoking or using other tobacco products. There's also quite a bit of research and information around the fact that menthol was used specifically to target kids, women, African Americans, the LGBTQ plus community. Flavors have been used to target a lot of people. Nicotine is the big concern when we talk about tobacco. That is where the addiction lies. I'm not going to take a whole lot of time to go into the depth of this because we have experts sitting behind me that can tell it better. But it does harm brain development. When we talk about kids and nicotine, it slows down the mental development of kids. We know that the brain doesn't cease development until you're 25, and even then there's a little bit that still goes on, but that critical window is in our teens, in our youth. That's when their brain is fully forming who they're going to be. So anything that's going to affect that is something we should try to work to not have on the market. New research lately is linking nicotine to anxiety and depression. When we think about mental health, nicotine is something that should be in that conversation, because what we have seen is nicotine can raise anxiety levels 4 times in our kids, and it can more than double depression as well. Unfortunately, when we talk to kids who are choosing to use, they think that they're self-medicating. They think that this is going to actually help them. It primes the brain for future addiction as well. If there is such a thing as a gateway drug, nicotine is it. So right now, when we talk about vaping, there's a real reason why we're all incredibly concerned about this. When you go back 10 years ago, when I started this job, we were talking mostly about smoking, and vaping just barely came on the market. 1 milligram of nicotine is in every cigarette. There's 20 cigarettes in a pack. And I put that specifically up there to point out that the level of nicotine has grown astronomically in the last decade. We now have on the market Elf Bar and other vape products that have more than 590 cigarettes. So we're talking almost 2 cartons. Some of them have more than 2 cartons worth of nicotine and chemicals in them. So this is incredibly scary stuff that's going on. And it's right here in our county. Nicotine pouches, I promised you a little information. Zyn is the most popular brand here. It's often talked about as a tobacco-less product. It is indeed created in a lab. You can see there at the bottom, we extract nicotine from a tobacco leaf. Sometimes a synthetic brand is made in a lab. This comes with a whole host of other chemicals that are in this product. We now have a product that's even easier to use than vaping because you don't have to spit it. Unlike chew, you don't have to spit this product out, right? So you don't have to carry a bottle around with you or somehow get rid of the spit. You can actually swallow it. It's absorbed directly through the membrane in the mouth, and it comes in products that have anywhere from 2 to 6, sometimes 8 milligrams strength products. So these things are literally just glued up underneath your lip and used, sometimes more than one at a time. So they're cropping up in our schools at this point in time. So that's what I have for you. Just a reminder that the whole reason we're doing this is for our kids. And thank you again for letting us have this public hearing.
Questions or comments for? Okay, this is a public hearing. We're going to open this up for public comment. Couple of parameters here we'll set. We try to keep each person to 3 minutes. That doesn't mean you have to go 3 minutes. It means 3 minutes is a maximum. We need you to sign in if you're going to speak. You'll address me. This is not going to be a discussion between people who wish to speak or a debate. You can come up and give your presentation. You'll start with telling us who you are and where you live. And we'll try and avoid repetitive comments. If what you have to say has already been said, it helps the process if we just move along. I want people to feel that they're heard and a chance to express themselves, but we've got to set some parameters.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner
I
Campbell.
can too. This morning, Jackie handed some documents to us, and I'm assuming that they wanted to be included into the record. And so if it's okay, Mr. Chair, if I could just maybe announce the authors in terms of who these letters are from so that they can be entered into the public hearing record. We have a letter from Bill Leahy, owner of Expressin Convenience. I hope I'm not butchering the names. And then we have a letter from Jeannie Wagum. She's the President of the Association of Non-Smokers Minnesota. We have a letter from Pam Coney. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. She's the Senior Director in Advocacy and Public Policy for the American Lung Association. I apologize, I have some allergy issues today, so. Gamada Boltum, Outreach Coordinator for, it's acronym SAYFSM. Reverend Fikru Etika. And a document from the Tobacco Free Kids Action Fund dated December 16, 2024. And a letter from Paul Wirtz, who is the State Government Relations Director for the American Heart Association. I would offer those letters into the record.
Very good. Commissioner
Letters
Gross.
aren't all in favor of it,
Well, I mean, we
Right.
all have those to read.
right?
Yeah, no, they're, yeah, I'm not saying one way or another how they stand. They took the time to write the letters, and so they should be put into the public record.
Mr. Chair and Commissioner, those are also the ones that were given after the packet was made. So in your packets, there are additional letters as well. So I'm
Yeah.
not sure if you want to read those.
But the ones that are in the packet will be part of the record already.
Okay, yep, just want to make sure.
Do you need a second? Is that where we're at, or? Do we have to
I-
do that?
Well, we can't vote, we're in a public.
Yeah, I'm just offering
There
into
you
the
go.
record, so it's,
Thank you.
I don't know that that needs to have a motion or second.
Okay.
Okay, any questions for Jason? Okay, members of the public, have we got people signed in, or? I know Jim Joy is one of the members. Jim, if you'd step up to the podium.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm here representing my business in Clay County. It's in Hawley, Minnesota, 1014 Hobart Street. I own a company. It's held under Angem Holdings, doing business as Kirk Superstop. I oppose this tobacco ban, and what it is it's a toolbox in my chest. And I sell bait. I got people coming from North Dakota. I got people coming down because of our lakes area, and we attract tourists and everything like that. And I want to have all tools available to be able to sell to people if I want. You know, that's a choice as a business owner to choose what I want to sell and what I don't want to sell. And, you know, in 2023, I sold $58,000 in flavored chewing tobacco. That is being targeted right now. That's a 95% tax on that product that leaves the wholesaler and comes into my store. So I oppose this. I know there's a high rise in youth using vapes and e-cigarettes and all these things. If I ever get into the industry of selling vapes or anything like that, I go to the major manufacturers that have FDA approval. I don't sell the illicits, the stuff you can get online. And that's something to look at when you're looking at this. You know, just because we want to make a movement to help youth and all this, but I have a lot of construction workers. Right now we have schools being built in Hawley. We have a lot of construction that stays in Hawley, stays in the hotel. And those contractors come from many different areas, and they can buy their products at our C-stores today. And if that's not available, they can either drive to Barnesville, that does their own licensing, or they can drive over to Lake Park, and you're taking businesses from, you know, small communities that are trying to keep the communities alive and hurting our sales. So I just today encourage the commission to look at this and maybe take it back to the drawing board and have some more discussion on this. So again, I appreciate my time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Can I get clarification on what is the current legal age to purchase these products in Clay County?
It would be 21, I believe, yes.
Is that what it currently is, 21? Okay.
Okay, anyone else wants to address? Have you signed in, ma'am? All right, now state your name and place of residence.
I'm Becky Anderson. I live in Fargo, North Dakota. I'm a retired, registered respiratory therapist with 42 years of experience caring for and building nationally recognized healthcare programs for the people of our region, including Clay County. As a respiratory therapist, I was on the front lines of the tobacco epidemic my entire career. My early professional years were marked by caring for people with chronic diseases caused by tobacco use. Those at the end of their lives spent a considerable amount of time hospitalized. As an impressionable young therapist, I remember their names, I remember their faces, and I remember their stories. I remember the physical devastation and emotional burden which are the result of nicotine addiction. I sat beside the bed of thousands of patients trying to bring some small measure of comfort and light at a time when many of them were at the end of their lives, dying way too young in their 50s and 60s and 70s. As they shared their stories with me, it always struck me as tragic that nicotine addiction is an epidemic which starts in childhood. Many of them under the age of 10, 90% before the age of 18, 90% of tobacco users. This is getting in the hands of our children. This is disturbing on many levels. Jason talked about the brain development. Nicotine forever changes brain circuitry, making it easier for addiction, not just to nicotine, but to all addictive drugs, and it's more difficult to quit later in life. The tobacco industry targets our children for addiction. Ordinances restricting flavored tobacco are important because the taste of tobacco without flavoring is so unpalatable, it would cause children to never start and encourage current tobacco users to quit, saving untold lives. A top priority for all of us should be to stand for initiatives which significantly improve the health and wellness of our citizens. For these reasons, I ask that you pass the strongest ordinance possible by removing all flavored tobacco sales. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wish to speak? Have you signed in, ma'am? Okay, if you tell us who you are and where you live.
And I also have a letter from Dr. Griffin from Sanford to read as well. So, my name's Elizabeth Elizondo. I've worked for Sanford for 30 years as a tobacco treatment specialist. I see patients who use all forms of tobacco. I am from Fargo, the other side of the river, but a lot of the patients I see are from this side, from the Minnesota as well, in Clay County area. Do you hear about kids?
Could you speak closer to the microphone?
Sorry. I see kids who, as early grade school, have tried vapes, and that is very significant that these young children are starting the vapes because it truly does alter brain development, increase nicotine addiction risks, like Becky and Jason had mentioned. And the majority of teens and preteens that I see who vape, I see in the hospital, they're treated as, because they're vaping, it's irritating their lungs, and they're treating them as asthmatics. I see many patients in their late teens and early 20s who wish they never started vaping. Some tried smoking first but didn't like the taste or the smell. Others were just tempted by the enticing flavors of the flavored vapes and flavored pouches. Preteens, in their words, are just sucking on the good flavors all day long, all the time. By the time they're young adults, many cannot say how much they are vaping. At times, they're vaping the equivalent of the nicotine that would be in 3 to 6 packs per day of cigarettes. That's much more than most people you see smoking cigarettes. They're unaware of the hazards of this. Some are ready to quit, but they feel they can't because they just don't know how to live without that nicotine. Others don't see the problems with the vaping. Please help to protect the health of the children in our area and help reduce the appeal and access of these harmful chemicals in flavored nicotine products. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then this letter. Dear Commissioners, as a Chief Medical Officer at Sanford Medical Center, I strongly support your efforts to restrict the sale of flavored tobacco products in Moorhead, Clay County. I often see the impact of tobacco-related illnesses have on our patients. Annually, smoking-related illnesses cost the United States more than $300 billion, with nearly $170 billion of these costs being attributed to the direct medical care for adults, and $5.6 billion in lost productivity due to secondhand smoke exposure. According to the FDA's 2020 National Youth Survey, 3.6 million American youths are currently using e-cigarettes, with 8 out of 10 of these youths using the flavored e-cigarettes. It is clear that flavoring, especially those used in e-cigarettes, is highly appealing to young people, which are used as a gateway to a lifetime of tobacco use and increased healthcare costs. Just like their non-flavored counterparts, flavored and menthol tobacco products are dangerous and deadly. Just like every other tobacco product, these products cause cancer, heart, and lung diseases, and death. By adopting this ordinance, Clay County will be at the forefront of preventing another generation from becoming lifelong tobacco users. As a healthcare professional, I strongly support Clay County's efforts to protect the health of the community. Sincerely, Dr. Douglas Griffin, MD. Thank you.
Thank you. Have you signed in, ma'am?
Yep.
Okay.
My name is Katie Ullman. I'm from Dilworth, Minnesota. I am the assistant principal at DGF Middle School and High School, serving grades 5 through 12. We search students every single week for vaping devices, 5th graders and seniors. We find these vaping devices that contain nicotine as well as cannabis oil, but every single one of them are flavored. Vapes are difficult for us in the school to manage, as not only are they easy to hide, but also very difficult to detect. We receive reports of students vaping in the bathrooms daily, but also in our classrooms, in the hallways, on the bus, anywhere. We have increased supervision where we can, but it's impossible to find it at all times when students go into the bathrooms, blow fumes into their sweatshirts. We are out of luck. For students who vape, it typically starts out as a student trying it to fit in by trying a flavored tobacco. Unfortunately, they enjoy the flavor and so try again and again and again, which easily turns into an addiction. Unlike other mood-altering chemicals, students enjoy the taste of the flavors such as fruit punch, candy, and dessert. And they get a thrill off of finding new ones, trying them, and passing them around to their friends at school. It doesn't matter how much we preach it at school, teens just don't realize the health effects and addictions that come later in life or before it's too late. Many of the students we find vaping are repeat offenders. In visiting more in depth with them, they are addicted. While there are some online classes for them to take, that is not a priority of theirs as a teenager. Like I stated, it's difficult for them to realize these harmful effects of a vape when it tastes like they are eating candy. As a school district, we find it hard to believe that a student can be 19 years old in college and get a minor in consumption that requires them to pay a fine, have community service, and attend a class, but students who are vaping flavored cannabis or tobacco on school property under the age of 18 and as low as 5th grade get restorative justice for the first offense and a small citation for the second offense. School districts are fighting a losing battle with vaping devices, and teen addiction to vaping devices is an epidemic, and we need to make vaping less desirable to our youth by not having flavored products around and to remember the impacts of all of this on their mental health. By restricting flavored tobacco sales in Clay County, we will take an essential step towards reducing youth tobacco and THC use, promoting public health, and preventing lifelong addiction and disease.
Thank you. Okay, have you signed in?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Olivia Iverson, and I'm a sophomore at Dilworth Glen and Felton High School. I'm from Dilworth, Minnesota. I'm also a member of Dilworth Glen and Felton's RISE Club, which stands for Responsible Individuals Striving for Excellence. RISE Club works against youth substance abuse by recognizing positive community norms. It is super important to me, as well as the rest of RISE Club, that we make the sale of flavored tobacco products illegal in Clay County. This is the first step in the right direction of ending youth substance abuse. Every day when I walk into school, I see posters saying 92% of DGS students choose not to vape or drink in a typical month. While 92% is amazing and a lot of progress from where our district used to be, I can't help but think about the 8% of students who choose to use substances. Passing this ordinance would help students who use substances reach out and get help, because having access to flavored tobacco products would become more difficult. This would make them realize they have a problem and make them more interested in getting help. The first step in getting better is admitting that you have a problem. When we use the bathroom at school, we'll occasionally see busted up vapes or cartridges in the toilets. But still, many people have never seen the effects of vaping firsthand, especially on our youth population. But I can. Speaking from personal experience, I've been in the car with people who are vaping, and I've been offered a vape before. I've seen teenagers not be able to put their vape down and take it with them wherever they go. When I declined the offer of using a vape, the person looked offended. We need to pass this, especially for the youth in our community, because this is not okay. Thank you.
Thank you. You signed in, ma'am? I have. All right.
Good morning. My name is Megan Carlstad. I'm a registered nurse and operations manager with Essentia Health with the Pulmonary Medicine Department. I wish I had never started smoking. That's the comment I hear the most from our pulmonary medicine patients. But before I tell you about them, I want to share a few statistics that you may be familiar with from before, so I'll skip most of them. But in Clay County, 1 in 7 deaths are tobacco-related. 2 in 3 cigarettes sold are flavored tobacco. And a little bit about fiscal responsibility. Smoking costs $33.3 million in excess medical dollars for the county. As was mentioned, there is hope. Smoking rates have gone down. However, e-cigarettes have actually increased. But let's ask ourselves, why does this really matter? It's lives, and our children's and the community's lives. So I'm going to touch on what happens once that addiction takes place and happens, and what happens long-term. Emphysema, which is one of those first pictures, if we're not too squeamish and we can look at those. Emphysema is a common disease of smoking, which includes constant short of breath, air hunger, coughing that doesn't go away, wheezing, chest tightness, swollen legs, ankles, swelling legs, ankles, and feet, frequent infections, and that can't be cured and gets worse over time. But the one I really want to talk about is, of course, lung cancer. So when we get addicted at a young age, and addiction is, especially with tobacco, is insanely hard to quit. Lung cancer is the one we, of course, think about. And in our community of Cass Clay, less than 7% of our community gets screened for lung cancer. Looking around the room, I'm actually wondering how many of us get our lung cancer screenings, or who even knows what the criteria is for a lung cancer screening. But lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer death. And why? It's because it's caught too late. Even in screenings, some of us might be surprised to know that if a 1A or a super tiny nodule is detected, depending where you go for your health care, and even in our community, sometimes you get brought back to the doctor's office and are told it is too small for us to reach, depending on where it is, come back in 3 months. So during those 3 months, you know you have lung cancer in you, and you get to know you sit and wait for it to grow. So what happens then? In 3 months, we put you under sedation, we use a big fancy robot as you see in the pictures, and you come back for a biopsy. After that, we put you under sedation again for dye marking for a surgery. After that, we put you under sedation again for a procedure with our cardiovascular surgeon. Then you get to have part of your lung removed. Hopefully it goes without complications, unlike a patient of ours, Ruth, who was in her mid-60s for a routine surgery, ended up bleeding unexpectedly and passed away. Then you get to go see oncology for chemotherapy, radiation, and everything that goes along with that, as we all know. That process, just from diagnosis to having part of that resection done, takes months. So after all that, the 5-year average survival rate for lung cancer in the United States is 26.6%. 26.6%. Early stage is 63% and late stage is 8%. So what can we do here today? We can help save lives in our community, of our friends, of our neighbors, and of our children. We can make the difference so that they won't ever say, "I wish I had never started smoking." Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. Have you signed in, sir?
I have.
All right.
My name is Mike Martin, retired principal from Hawley. Been out for 5.5 years. And when I first encountered vaping, when it came out, we were talking about devices the size of a cell phone, not what Principal Ullman's dealing with anymore, and I'll get to that in a second. And I knew it was going to be a difficult issue, but the one thing I didn't understand coming in is how deleterious the effects were going to be on kids and their lungs and addiction. And that's soon manifested itself as I would challenge a kid on why they had a vape in school and that, and they just said they were addicted, and it happened very quickly. I called several schools to give you current information this morning, not based on what I recall. And there's a couple real common themes. Number one, addiction, addiction, addiction. Almost to the student, when principals would call a student and they'd say, it's so hard to quit. Okay, I didn't anticipate that, but that's a common theme now. The second thing, to the person, it started with flavored product. You talk about Starburst, fruit roll-ups, that's going to catch a child. One principal said, cigarettes are basically off the table for him, but he said once the flavored vapes came into place, he said it's been exponential growth for them to deal with. And he brought up a really good point. He said, when you look at the advertising, it talks about like this product is discreet. Why does it need to be discreet? All but 2 of us in this room can legally vape. We don't need a discreet product, one that looks like a car fob, one that is this big. They're marketing students precisely with that type of thing. I had a principal whose 9-year-old son came into the office and was digging where he wasn't supposed to dig, and he goes, "Oh my gosh, what is this? It smells so good." Well, it was a vape cartridge, the 9-year-old. And to circle back to I'm not going to repeat what Jason said, but I'm a trauma-informed instructor, and we talk a lot about the prefrontal cortex. It's that mechanism in our brain that enables us to make good decisions, to stop. I call it the braking mechanism. And that doesn't, in young ladies about age 22 and young men about age 24, it's pretty near the end of its development. But with these products, we are impeding the development of that extremely important brain function. And just on that alone, I'm very much in favor of doing whatever we can to restrict the use by our young people. As commissioners, all of us in this room are looking at this at the surface level. You're up at 1,000 feet. I understand it's a very complex issue for you. I appreciate your service to the county and being willing to represent us. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? If not, I believe we've got a couple people online.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Have you signed in, sir?
I have, yes.
Okay.
My name's Sean Mork. I'm with the City of Hawley. I thank everybody here for the Clay County Commissioners to be considering the direct impact of this proposed ordinance banning flavored tobacco. This measure will have significant effect on the City of Hawley and its businesses. If enacted, individuals seeking flavored tobacco products may begin taking their businesses nearby locations such as Lake Park, where they're going to be able to purchase their bait, their fuel, and other items. As a result of this, tax implications will extend beyond just flavored tobacco. This issue affects Holly, as well as other cities that do not collect their tobacco licensing fees. This is not affecting places such as Moorhead, Dilworth, and Barnesville, from what I've understood. This loss of business in smaller communities would be significant, as people will have fewer reasons to stop and spend their money locally when they can easily drive just a little bit further and pick up what they need there. This could also result in more money being spent outside of Clay County. And my concern with this is how this might impact the county's bond obligations of buildings that rely specifically on sales tax revenue. I would ask the commissioners if they are concerned with the effect on how this affects children right now and what kids are currently using. Like what was stated earlier, most of this stuff is being used through vapes and e-cigarettes. Currently, marijuana use with e-cigarettes, per the Minnesota Department of Health website that I looked up at last night, e-cigarettes is currently being used with marijuana at 14.5% with students. This is a slight decrease from 3 years prior at 18.2. With e-cigarettes alone, 14% of students have stated that they have used it in the last 30 days. And again, this is a slight decline from about 19.3%. But specifically with cigarettes and with chewing tobacco, both of those numbers are a lot lower, significantly lower. Cigarette use currently with high school students is 4.5%, which is basically unchanged from 2020. And again, with chewing tobacco, it's 2% of the population. And again, it's basically statistically has not changed since 2020. Tobacco use, such as cigarettes and chewing tobacco, has been declining overall in the past 4 years. But again, like what was stated earlier, and let me rephrase that. Chewing tobacco and cigarettes with tobacco use has been declining overall over the past 4 years, both among students and with adults, per the Minnesota State Department website. What individuals are using more of, and what you guys heard here earlier, are the vapes and e-cigarettes. This ordinance, though, is targeting all flavored tobacco, which would include everything from cigarettes down to the vapes. Last night, while reviewing some of the things online, I read a Fargo Forum article that proposed that this proposed ordinance aims to align Clay County's tobacco regulations with state and federal law. And if I'm not mistaken, please correct me if I'm wrong, but businesses are already in compliance with state and federal laws since they're not selling flavored cigarettes, which the federal law is stating currently. This ordinance would specifically affect flavored cigarettes, chewing tobacco, cigars, and vapes. There's an ongoing discussion right now with the City of Holly about restoring local control over tobacco compliance and how this ordinance directly impacts Holly. I have concerns about how this ordinance will be implemented and the potential effects it may have with our local businesses. We are, like Mr. Joy had stated, the concerns I think here and what everybody else has stated is with vapes, but the way the ordinance is written right now, it currently covers all flavored tobacco. I'm open to engaging with other mayors and communities to discuss the impact that this could have on their businesses with bordering communities from other places. Thank you.
Good morning, Ezra Bear, Gooseberry Township. I wasn't going to speak on this matter today, but I figured I would. With flavored tobacco and e-cigarettes, I believe everybody in this room could agree they are bad for our kids, but you have to be 21 to purchase them. Just remember that. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Have you signed in? Okay. All right, sir.
Good morning. My name is Kani Aaron, and I am the Executive Director of New Youth Midwest Immigrant-Owned Organization. Also, I am the District Liaison in Moorhead Public Schools. Moorhead, I personally, as a District Liaison, served more than 500 students, mostly new Americans, and I mostly get involved when they are in trouble. I am sure there is a lot enough being said, but one thing I want to add is when it comes about tobacco used, it's a major problem for us and for the family that we served. There's a research shows that every 4 black kids, 2 of them are not graduating at Moorhead High School. And we do our own research. Most of them, those who involve tobacco use, doing in the bathrooms. We have more than a dozen students who are in home today that we are talking, 16 years old, 17 years old. Most of them drop up. Some of them end up in streets, jails. And we have been talking this problem for a long time. I have families who are mental health because of tobacco used, being involved with their teens. I have families who end up divorces. And I don't even understand why we have this debate about this. So I don't have a lot to say, but I will say the people that we served, tobacco used is a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's get the people to the remote. I cannot read the names from this distance. Yes, please.
Jasmine?
Is it Jasmine?
Jasmine?
Yes. Okay, if you would, again, you can address us right now. We've got you on remote.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair and County Commissioners. My name is Jasmine Enciso. I'm testifying on behalf of the National Association of Tobacco Outlets, also known as NATO, and the retailers and convenience stores operators across Clay County. I'm speaking in opposition of the proposed ordinance to ban flavored tobacco products. We all share the common goal of protecting children from accessing tobacco products, and licensed retailers in Clay County have demonstrated their commitment to this by complying with strict age verification laws. However, this ordinance goes too far by restricting the choice of law-abiding adults while imposing unnecessary burdens on small family-owned businesses. A full flavor ban disproportionately impacts small retailers who depend on flavored tobacco products for a significant portion of the revenue. These bans could lead to job losses, store closures, and a decrease in local tax revenue, harming the very communities we aim to protect. Additionally, banning flavored tobacco products may push consumers to unregulated markets where products lack safety and quality control. This will undermine public health efforts and create unintended consequences such as increase in black market activity. While protecting youth is vital, we must also respect the freedom of adults to choose legal products. Adults should not be penalized for the actions of small minorities who bypass existing laws. Evidence shows that education campaigns and community-focused prevention programs are far more effective in addressing underage use than outright bans. Rather than implementing a ban that penalizes both responsible retailers and adults, we urge the board to consider collaborative solutions that achieve public health goals without negatively impacting the community. For example, enhancing compliance efforts through partnerships with retailers, launching targeted education campaigns to prevent underage tobacco use, expanding community programs that focus on tobacco prevention. We encourage the board to reject the ordinance and focus on balanced, effective strategies that support both public health and local economic stability. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. The next, is it Pat or Pam?
Pat.
Pat.
Good morning. It is Pat McCone. Thank you so much, commissioners, and thank you for this opportunity. My name is Pat McCone. I'm the Senior Director for Public Policy and Advocacy for the American Lung Association. Our offices are based in St. Paul. I've worked for the Lung Association for 45 years. I was known once as Smokey Sam's mom and worked on prevention a long time. I can tell you I have never been as concerned about this nicotine and tobacco epidemic as I am now. And I find it ironic that the two times I've dealt with the tobacco industry as interested in policy work have been when we did smoke-free air, and some of the same claims from business owners will go out of business, people won't come, they'll go other places, and with flavor restrictions. I also commend you as commissioners, as the job for city people and county is first and foremost health and safety. I think it's ironic that when we talk about a product that used as directed kills over half of its customers, we get concerned about the economics. The real economics here are the costs to Minnesotans for healthcare related to smoking, which amount to $4.7 billion annually, or $824 per resident. Those are the real costs besides the harm and pain and suffering that comes with a lifelong addiction to a nicotine product. In 2009, tobacco companies were restricted from producing flavored cigarettes. At that time, a compromise was made, and I know a compromise is on the table in Clay County. The compromise in 2009 was the only flavor to be allowed was menthol. It's time for that compromise on people's health to end. And as we know, Minnesota's model is local control, and locals do the heavy lift of policy change before the state does it. We've been advocating this at the federal level for many years. I want to talk about the unintended consequences of option B. It has the potential of driving even more young people back to the use of combustible products and/or smokeless products. I know that the language currently says chewing tobacco is exempt. There's no definition of chewing tobacco, and you've already heard earlier about Zyn pouches. If I chew on that pouch a little bit and place it in my mouth, is that chewing tobacco or is that a pouch? I would call it chewing tobacco if I were addicted and wanted to keep use of my product. I'd say that smokeless tobacco products are second only to vapes in the percent of students using flavored products. Second only to vapes is smokeless tobacco. We've already had a huge uptake of Zyn. They ran out of the product. They actually, Philip Morris, that owns the company, Big Tobacco, is in the process of building a new plant in Colorado. It's made from nicotine salt. It's highly addictive. I mean, when we talk about addiction, when I was a child, when I was in high school, we had to sneak behind the alley to get a puff on a cigarette. I think the schools have done a good job of telling you the epidemic, what they are facing. I think schools have done their job. I really urge you as county commissioners, as representing the health of the county, to do the right thing and vote for a comprehensive healthy ordinance and avoid the pitfalls of exemptions. Thank you again and appreciate your time.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Mojo.
Thank you. Ms. McCone, when you're referencing you referenced there's a compromise on the table, what were you referencing?
I'm referencing in the handouts, there is an option A and an option B draft of the ordinance.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any other people wish to address this issue? Jackie, is there anyone else online we don't?
No, and I asked Sarah as well, and she said nobody has contacted her either, so.
Okay.
Yet.
And again, last call here. Anybody wish to address this issue that hasn't had a chance to speak? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to move out of public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, motion to second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of moving out of the public hearing, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign? Okay, we're back in session. I would entertain a motion
Mr. Chair,
or discussion on it.
yeah, I think there needs to be some discussion here.
Okay,
Thank you.
I really respect everybody who spoke today, and your passion towards your views on this is very important. I have some concerns regarding Clay County doing this alone. I do. I have, back when I was on this board in 2012, when we did the ordinance that dealt with removing the smoking from bars and restaurants and those types of things. Am I glad that was done? Absolutely. But you know what? Clay County didn't do it alone. We had support from across the river. We ended up having support from the entire state in doing that. I have a real concern when we're going to pass an ordinance that still allows anybody to go over any one of our bridges 600 feet, make a left turn and go 600 feet, and be able to buy whatever we're wanting to deal with here in terms of impacting, or regulating. Does Norman County have this ordinance? Does Becker County have this ordinance? Does Otter Tail County have this ordinance? Does Cass County have this ordinance? And again, I'm speaking from the standpoint of, and Ezra, you came up here and you mentioned, and it was one of the things that I asked about very early on in this, what is the age to buy this? So all these kids that we're talking about, it's illegal for them to have it. How are they getting it? Are we talking about that at all? Is it still going to be convenient for whatever source they have to go 600 feet over into Fargo and buy it and get it to them? I don't know that this Clay County and what the proposal here alone to do is going to stop or prevent those kids from getting this product. I heard no testimony here on how they're getting it. None. I didn't hear any testimony about how they're getting it. And that's an important factor that we have to understand here. Where are they getting it? Are their parents buying it for them? I hope not. But I have some concerns from that standpoint in regards to this, because I obviously there's an issue with the flavored vaping that I think really does need to have some discussion, whether or not I'm prepared to do an all-encompassing. I'd have to vote no right now on it, in all honesty. So that's my thoughts on it.
I have real concerns with the vape and with the Zen. I think that's what is attractive to kids. I've talked to people that work in the schools, and they're saying they don't see cigarettes, they don't see the smokable issue. The issue is vaping. And, I don't know, I just don't feel comfortable with saying, well, they'll get it anyway. Their big brother will get it for them, or somebody will make a run over to Fargo. Limiting the convenience of getting these products for vaping and the pouches, limiting the convenience of those products, which are the ones that are impacting on our kids. I think I feel obligated to do that. We are coming into where we're legalizing cannabis, and you're going to see the ability to vape cannabis products. I will bet you my next 3 paychecks on that. And once that happens, it makes it that much easier for kids to smoke or to ingest cannabis products in the schools. So is this going to be a cure-all? Absolutely not. Is it going to limit access? Yes. Once you get into guys that are older than me that want their SKUs, or people that are smoking menthol cigarettes, if they're over 21, and the business people we're hearing from, I think we have compliance. I don't think they're interested in selling to kids. I think they're interested in maintaining a business that, honestly, it determines whether people are going to stop in their businesses on the way to the lake. People that live in the community and work on the farms are going to want to have access without driving to Fargo or Detroit Lakes. Again, we're not going to come up with a perfect solution. I smoked for 15 years, and I'm really glad I don't smoke anymore. I'm glad I quit when my first kid was born. But when I don't like controlling the behavior of adults. Not in this. But the vaping products, I think, are designed for kids, and that's where the problem lies when you hear people in the schools talk. Anyone else? Commissioner Krabanoff.
Yeah, thank you. I echo what Commissioner Ebinger said. Anything that will protect our children from leading them down a bad path, and we have the opportunity to help this. As I listen to the schools that talk of the uses, and that down to 5th grade, I start hearing those things that, as it is right now, it makes me shake. You shake inside. And I don't know. I've had 2 good friends die of lung cancer this year. I've had people with pulmonary disorders that maybe quit 10 years ago, and now they're at my age, and they're getting toward the end of their life. And it shortens it. And was that by their free choice? Yes. But at the same time, if we know that by bringing the age from 18 to 21, which maybe was controversial at the time, has reduced smoking in its own effect, I don't know why doing something like this to take away, especially the vapes and the pouches. So I'm leaning, I will tell you, leaning toward the option B. But if that helps, darn it, I feel we just need to do it. It's the right thing to be doing. Personally, I will just say I've had cancer. I've had radiation around my throat. And as I've aged, it's becoming difficult. It's becoming difficult to talk, to eat. And when I think of even chews or just the destruction that does smoke by intake in the esophagus and other areas, I don't wish this on anybody. So I'm open to moving toward B. My heart says go with A, but in consideration of something toward business, I guess. I can see the other, but the increase of vape, just and to marijuana, when that comes out and vaping comes out, and you see, I just hope some way our laws and ordinance keep pushing back on all this. But the issue at hand is at tobacco, so that's my voice.
Mr. Mozo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the folks that showed up today. It's always great to have varied voices around the tables. All of us sit around a lot of different tables and have lots of discussion throughout everyday life. And so I appreciate hearing your stories. One word that was brought up was ironic. I will say I find it really ironic that we have more folks in the room to discuss this issue than we did in regards to legalizing marijuana. As a mom, that terrifies me. I will say we also, I have not heard as many voices around this table or around other tables in Fargo or Cass County around this issue either, and I struggle with that. A lot of the letters and testimony that we got were from residents of North Dakota, and so I would encourage you to also have vibrant discussion with those leaders that can change those laws as well. We had a meeting this morning about chamber policy and legislative priorities, and And certainly, we sit around a lot of tables that talk about public health and how we keep the members of our community the most safe. But another piece is, how do we deal with the discrepancy in policies with North Dakota and Minnesota? And how does that affect business owners? How does that affect residences? How does that affect the costs that schools have in implementing so many different rules and regulations? And it's challenging. It's really challenging. And I think I agree with, well, I don't think, I know I agree with Commissioner Campbell in that. The community does so much together in regards to flood protection, in regards to MetroCog and planning and roads and implementation. And this really has to be a holistic community initiative that doesn't just look at one county versus another. I do really struggle with that. And I have an 18-year-old that lives in Wapaton, North Dakota. And I also have a 15-year-old that goes to Moorhead High. And I will agree that it is evident that you can walk in the schools and use the restroom and see the puffs of smoke, and kids are hiding it in their sweatshirts. And so I'll completely agree with that, that the vape is a problem. I also will not regulate a construction worker that is stopping in Holly to fill up diesel in his truck and get food for the day, and also getting, if he chooses as a over 21-year-old adult, to buy tobacco products. Because I will tell you, if he doesn't get it in Holly, he will get it in Lake Park, he will get it in Becker County, and those are tax revenues that they're also getting. Part of what this board does is look at a lot of different issues, and you'll see later on our agenda, we have a huge budget that we'll need to approve. And one snippet of that has to do with kiddos, 8 to 21, who need psychiatric residential care. And I'm not saying that those kiddos come from families that don't have addictive problems. That is true. But if we're asking the state for $28 million to help house those kids in Clay County, those revenues have to come from somewhere. And so it's also really difficult for us to sit around those tables and say, allocate $28 million for Clay County to build a residential treatment center, while we're also doing things that are reducing the sales tax capacity and revenues that come out of our county as well. Those are really difficult challenges as a mother. Those are really difficult challenges as grandparents and folks around this table as well. We have to equally balance that out. But what we also do is support our staff that are in these positions. And I'm looking at social services and public health leaders in this room. And I think that you have a board that's really willing to work to address areas in regards to compliance, enforcement, education. And we've never voted down initiatives that help to educate. But what is challenging right now is when we have an ordinance proposal that is void of substantial dialogue from stakeholders and decision makers. It's really hard to have a 1-hour public hearing and vote on something without looking exactly how that needs to read. I am very close with members of different school districts, and I have had a long conversation with Dr. Lunick from Moorhead, also Superintendent Hunstead this morning, and over 99% of what they're seizing in those two districts alone are vape. And I think there might be a compromise here if we are talking about kids and what the trends we're seeing are, if that's something we do. But it's not going to deter a kid from getting it in North Dakota. It's not. I mean, it's just, if it's so readily available, this has to be a community-wide approach.
Commissioner Campbell.
Mr. Chair, and thank you. And going to a little bit of what Commissioner Mojo said, you know, we as a board, we deal with an awful lot of issues and an awful lot of controversial issues and an awful lot of community concern issues. And I think the homelessness is one. And if just one entity tries to solve homelessness on your own, does it just push it to somewhere else? And it can go from being trying to do too much to doing too little by yourself. The whole point that I'm making here is that this issue is so big that, and every one of you raised a really good case for your concern. Don't get me wrong, every one of you made a really good case. But you know who we should be making that to? The state legislature. Because if Clay County is going to be the only one to do this, how many counties in the state of Minnesota right now have this ordinance that's being proposed for us? The point being is that, the vaping and the youth issues, and I firmly believe that we should be, Mr. Chair and members of the board, over the past couple of years on difficult issues like this, we've established work groups where we've had the ability to sit down and dive deep into this. As Commissioner Mojo said today, we've heard 1 hour of testimony from people who really have concerns on both sides. But what we haven't done is we heard from members from the city of Hawley. I haven't heard from any members of Moorhead. I haven't heard from members from Barnesville and some of the other entities. And I think we need to look at what the total impact of this ordinance is going to be for everybody by doing this. And I firmly believe that unless we can expand this to not just be Clay County, we're kidding ourselves if we think that these kids aren't going to still get this product.
Okay, just a point on this, City of Moorhead already bans all flavored tobacco and vape. They've had that ordinance for over a year. This harkens something I was involved in, 17 years ago. We had an endemic use of synthetic drugs in this community. There was no state or federal legislation on the use. We had head shops that were selling these things. They were selling, when they had to shift the formula for the synthetic drug, they called it bath salts or plant fertilizer. They gave it all kinds of different names, but everybody knew it was there for ingestion. It made you sick, it made you hostile, it made you dangerous. And they tweaked the formula as the state tried to regulate it. When in the downtime where they had to get new product in, they sustained themselves by selling drug paraphernalia. Things that were legal here, some of which were felonies in North Dakota. Possession of the synthetic drug was a felony in North Dakota. I had the parent of a kid with autism who was on probation over in Fargo call me and ask me, "What are you going to do about this, Chief?" when I told him it was legal. And I thought, if we can't control anything else, we got to push with our federal and state legislators for regulation, and we got to outlaw on a local ordinance drug paraphernalia. I had no idea how much hell I was going to be in for. But we did it. It took 6 months to get it through the Moorhead City Council. But we stopped the sale of the drug paraphernalia. Senator Klobuchar stepped up and worked with us to get federal legislation on it that mirrored the state legislation that came along. And we made the first arrest on a group, the Waz gang, that was selling this stuff. Moorhead was the first department to make an arrest on the new law. I say this not to give a war story, but to say you do what you can do. And this, we can rule on what goes on in Clay County, outside of the bigger cities, on this ordinance. And maybe Fargo set the tone, North Dakota set the tone for the legislation that we passed on the local level in Moorhead, because the standard was different across the river, and we were selling something that would get a kid tossed in jail on a felony charge. And we woke up to it. Maybe we can wake them up in North Dakota, I don't know. But I think this compromise is a good ordinance, and I'm going to support it. Commissioner Gross.
Well, I personally feel we've got to start somewhere. You know, to say, well, no one else has done it. Well, let's do it. You know, and it's just, we've got to somehow convince our dealers. You say we're going to affect our dealers. They can't, they're going to lose money. Why are we allowing our dealers to sell stuff to our people that makes them sick? That I don't understand. You know, why can't they sell stuff that's going to hurt our children? It's just, that's what's got to be stopped. You know, and I realize that's even tougher yet, you know, but somewhere along the line, you got to start something, whether it's this here, probably won't do very much, but we've got to start. And with that, I'll make a motion to endorse, restrict the sale of flavored tobacco.
Is that A or B?
B, I think it is.
Just to clear so I can second, that would be so we would follow this language.
Oh, you got a different page now.
Well, it's his motion.
Menthol cigarettes and the chew.
This will include vaping and
It
kids
would
friendly.
get rid of vaping.
Yes.
It has to be his motion.
And grandfather in the menthol chewing tobacco and cigarettes.
I guess your page is different than mine, but yeah. I'll
Yes,
take
it has to be his motion, whatever his motion is.
Okay. That would be my motion, yes.
The B,
The B.
and I'll second that.
Further discussion? Commissioner Mojo.
I know we had asked earlier to have the sales tax revenue forecasts or estimates based on after Moorhead did their ordinance to now and what we saw the differences. Were we able to gather that information?
We were not, Madam Chair, Commissioners.
And I guess my only other comment is Moorhead and Dilworth enacted these same ordinances, and the usage in Moorhead among school members is higher than ever. So how do we think this is going to be an effective ordinance without a substantial effort in other areas?
Well, we know, I think doing nothing won't help.
Further discussion? If not, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Mr. Chair, I ask for a roll call vote.
Okay.
Commissioner Mojo?
No.
Commissioner Campbell?
No.
Commissioner Ebbinger?
Yes.
Commissioner Gross?
Yes.
Commissioner Krabbenhoft?
Yes.
All right. The motion passes. I want to thank everybody that came out here, including the folks online, to share your views with us. That's what we're here for, is to hear what our citizens want, what their concerns are. And I think everybody up here on this dais is doing what they believe is the right thing to try and address it. And I appreciate what our staff has done in working on this, Jason. You've been a real strong advocate and a responsible one. Rory, you too. Kathy, you too. And I appreciate the efforts. Move on to the next item. Request from out-of-state travel, I believe. Okay. I believe Ms. Savageau is online. Okay. Okay, Kim, we're on your item.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning. I am here today to request out-of-state travel to attend the National PRIA Conference in Texas in March of 2025. PRIA is the Property Records Industry Association, It was created for all participants in the real estate industry to come together to discuss issues and develop best practices. I've been a PRIA member for almost 10 years, and I've attended this national conference virtually and feel that it is worthwhile to attend in person. It will give me time to meet with professionals from other parts of the country and a broader part of the private sector. The cost of the trip will all be paid out of my technology fund for the recorder's office, so there will be no impact on my 2025 budget.
I'll make a
Do
motion.
you have any questions?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you, Kimberly.
Thank you. Thank you for your support.
Okay, next up we have Quinn Jagger with Proclamation December 2024 as Health and Human Services Worker Month.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Thank you for having me today. I'm here to request a motion to proclaim December Health and Human Services Worker Month. Our staff over at Social Services play a crucial role in supporting the well-being of individuals within Clay County. They work tirelessly to provide essential services, often under challenging circumstances, ensuring access to healthcare, social services, and other support systems. Many people are unaware of the diverse roles and responsibilities that health and human service workers take on, from crises to supporting vulnerable populations. This proclamation serves as an opportunity to educate the public about their contributions and critical nature of their work. By celebrating the profession publicly, those actions can inspire others to pursue careers in this field. I believe with some of my most recent openings that I've had in the Child Protection Unit, this is one thing that can help raise awareness, is getting a public message out there. This proclamation highlights the meaningful and rewarding nature of the work, hopefully attracts new talent to meet growing community needs. Recognizing the contributions of our staff helps validate the value of their hard work and dedication to improving the quality of life for others. I have attached a proclamation for your convenience, and I would ask to proclaim December as Health and Human Services Worker Month.
Anything for Quinn? Yes, Commissioner Gross.
I personally agree with this proclamation, and it is a very important thing, but since December has been claimed as the month for it, why didn't we do this in November sometime?
That would be my fault. I'm a little late on that.
I would ask the commission to, if we're going to do this, let's read it. We're all comfortable with that.
I'll make a motion to do it.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion and then I'll start reading it.
Well, or we can vote on it and then we'll read it.
Perfect.
Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Take it away, Commissioner Mojo.
Thank you. The proclamation is Health and Human Services Worker Month 2024, our Clay County proclamation. Whereas the dedicated employees of Clay County Social Services work tirelessly to improve the lives of individuals and families in our community through their commitment to health, safety, and well-being, and
whereas Clay County Social Services workers must meet the highest standards of professionalism and integrity in performing their duties, and
whereas the responsibilities carried out by Clay County social services staff require exceptional skills, compassion, and adaptability to serve clients and address the diverse needs of our community, and
whereas the federal, state, and county initiatives depend on the expertise and dedication of Clay County social services workers who continuously enhance their knowledge, skills, and competency to meet the evolving challenges of their work, and
whereas Clay County recognizes and deeply values the meaningful contributions of its social service staff in ensuring the health, safety, and stability of our residents, and
Whereas the efforts of Clay County social services workers are critical to building a stronger, healthier, and more equitable community for all.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Clay County Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim December 2024 as Health and Human Services Service Worker Month, adopted this 17th day of December.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Quinn.
Thank you, Quinn.
All right. Justin Sorm, our county engineer.
Yes, good morning. So the first item I have is requesting approval to advertise for SAP 14634032. And this is the mill and overlay project on CASA 34 from Trunk Highway 9 all the way to CASA 11. And I would propose a letting date of January 28th.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, next item.
Yes, so the next item I have is requesting approval of Resolution 2024-37, which would be adopting the Fargo Moorhead Area Metropolitan Transportation Plan, Metro 2050 Transportation Moving Ahead. Michael Maddox from MetroCog is also here. This is something we've been working on for quite a while, and the resolution is just something that's required as being part of the TMA. I guess, did I miss anything on?
No, thank you very much. Again, my name is Michael Maddox, Senior Transportation Planner with MetroCog. This is something that we're required to update every 5 years. It's kind of our core document, like a comprehensive plan is for a city or a county. It contains federal transportation policy and how that interacts with the local environment here in the Fargo Moorhead region, as well as a long-range look at how our transportation system will look maybe 20 or 25 years in the future, and contains projects that will meet those needs in the future. So with that, if there are any questions, I'm open.
Any questions?
No
Make a
question.
motion to approve.
All right, I'll second the motion to approve Resolution 2024-37.
Any further discussion?
Just to discuss, thank you. I serve as vice chair, now chair, I guess, of MetroCog, and this really has been a work in progress. So I appreciate having Clay County engineering staff as part of the dialogue around those tables, and I think it's a good plan moving forward, so thank you.
Any additional? If not, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, last item I have is requesting approval of MNDOT grant agreement in Resolution 2024-38. So this grant agreement is with MNDOT, so it's basically giving us money to apply for a RAISE grant. So in the past, we've joined Norman and Polk County. It's kind of a joint application. So there is another round of IIJA funding coming out through the RAISE program. So this grant agreement just covers the cost to put the application together, so there's no financial impact to the county unless we were to receive funding. And this is a project that we've written letters of support throughout the years for as well. And for us, it would be replacing the CASA 36 bridge just north of Georgetown.
Mr. Chair, I'll offer a motion to approve Resolution 2024-38.
Second.
Have a motion, a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to take a 5-minute break. Corey Bang, our solid waste manager. Corey, it's all yours.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. My first request today is an increase in tipping fees for our demo landfill prices. The demolition landfill has increased their fees to $16 a yard, and we in turn have to raise ours just to break even. I would propose today that we raise our private customers to $19.40. The reason $19.40 is with the generator tax, it comes out to an even $20. And then the commercial loads would go to $25 per yard And again, this would just cover the costs of us hauling the material to the demo landfill, so.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
This was brought up at our SWAC meeting, and it was recommended by SWAC as well to recommend these rates.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
The second item this morning is to approve the Pelican Rapids contract to treat our leachate. The price did go up a little bit this year. It still comes out a lot cheaper than taking the product to Fargo. It'll still save us somewhere in the neighborhood of $50,000 by going there. And we're doing a year-by-year contract with them just based on potential PFAS issues. So my request would be to approve the 2025 contract.
Discussion, questions?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Mr. Chair, I just want to recognize Corey for being the one to reach out with Pelican Rapids on this. It's his efforts have, it's another example of how it saved the county a tremendous amount of money, last year and now once again for 2025. So thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. And did we vote on this? No. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Now, thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
Okay, next up. Matt Jacobson, Planning and Zoning Director.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Morning.
Commissioners. So bringing before you a request for a proposal to establish a single-track dirt bike track on county-owned property. Bring the property up for you here. It's this parcel on the north side of 10, just across from Buffalo River State Park and our county memorial forest property, kind of midway between City of Holly and Glendon. This property was purchased by the county in 2002. The Solid Waste Enterprise Fund to be used as a future landfill site, and been able to expand the landfill at the existing River or Holly Township location. So we did own the whole section at one point, and the west half was sold in 2020 to a private party. So this request, it came before the County Lands Committee in September. Typo in my memo to you, it's Buff Run. They're a local chapter of the American Motorcycle Association, and they're looking to potentially establish this track on this property. It's essentially a 4-foot wide dirt track, would be designed to minimize noise from onto neighboring properties. It would only be used by members of the American Motorcycle Association. They'd have a plan for like a gate with a key fob access, things like that. They approached us because they just noted a lack of rideable trails in the area, and they have to travel sometimes as far as Stillwater, Oklahoma, to ride. So this committee, we discussed this proposed use because there's been some other uses of this property as well. Highway Department used it for a while for stockpiling materials. A lot of that happens now to the north on the CASA 26 gravel pit property. The Sheriff's Department does use it. The bomb squad and SWAT team also use the property as well. And recently looking at using it for canine training as well. And so really, I think the ask here is to consider this request, and if approved, develop a kind of a request for proposals to go out and bid for leases on that property. Any questions for me at all?
Questions? Any comments?
That's something that'd have to be determined. I'd come back to you for that.
Mr.
So, oh,
Sorry.
go ahead.
Commissioner Mojo.
Thank you. As you can see in the memo, this is something where, as serving in the County Lands Committee as I do, and I've served the entire time I've been on this board, there's been a number of times when different members of the public have approached us in regards to what the plans are for county-owned property. And sometimes it seems like there's a fit and sometimes it doesn't. And if you recall, several years ago, this board did decide to work with the Soil and Water Conservation District and pursue a grant from Pheasants Forever on pollinator habitat. That's something that we were able to implement, and now the Crestwood sites that we own have been developed into that capacity. There's a great pollinator component out there. There's also some walking trails for the public. We've also had different bicycle groups reach out to us on some properties. And as you recall, this is a solid waste owned property. And early in 2024, this group did reach out to us to propose an opportunity that they thought could be a good fit. Certainly, you can see the dialogue that we had at the County-Owned Lands Committee in recommending this for discussion at the County Commission. Really felt like there was some concerns that we had in other proposals that were mitigated with this one, and seems to provide a pretty good niche in regards to EDA opportunities or economic development opportunities in relation to its location close to the Buffalo River State Park. I certainly am appreciative that the sheriff's office is able to use a component of this property for the dog training. If you see, they've done a really great job of developing some boxes for scent training. And I do know that the bomb squad uses that when there needs to be a detonation, I believe, Sheriff. And then so part of the dialogue that we had at the county-owned property is if there is a way to redesign what the proposed trail outlook is to be responsive and allow the sheriff's office the space and requirements that they need while still maybe moving forward with the opportunity for this single-track course. I can stand for any questions in regards to what the discussion at the committee level was.
Commissioner Krabanoff.
Yes, I'd like to hear more. It appears it's coming forward with really understanding for both, but maybe you want to talk about the discussion, or maybe we can hear from the sheriff what their intended uses. The way I feel right now is, without too much background, is how does this allow them to grow with the programs they're trying to do in their department, and what limitations, what the length of this contract might be that might inhibit them from they talk about regional growth, training place. I guess I'm concerned about taking that opportunity away from the Sheriff's Department and the regional group.
So, Mr. Chair and Commissioner Krabbenhoft, I'll defer to the Sheriff's Department on that. I know there's discussion just about different county uses of this property and in relation to other county-owned properties where we have FEMA deed restrictions on the property, and that dictates how that property can and cannot be used. And also just discussions about, I guess from the single track, from the Buff Run Club side of things, I know that there's some discussions about, and they're here, they have representatives here as well, they can speak to this, but essentially the way that their club is set up is that it would be for the members only. You couldn't bring any guests with you. there would have to be some sort of access in place, some scheduling in place. They wouldn't hold any events out there, just beyond like a maintenance or cleanup type event. And then insurance through the American Motorcycle Association as well. I think those are some of the things that kind of set them apart from, like, we've had proposals for just like a public bike, off-road or gravel bike trail before and things like that. And there's some potential liability issues there that might not be present with this. But I can let those two parties, the Sheriff's Department and the club, speak to that as well.
Sheriff, you want to bring us up to speed? Ironically, Sheriff Berquist and I, when I was chief, wanted to move the range out there. And the city wouldn't pay for it and the zoning wouldn't approve it, so that kind of was stillborn. But that was many years ago.
Yep. So the bomb team and SWAT team, they've been using that property since about 2014 when the, I think that was about the time that it was closed to public. It used to be open for public hunting and things of that nature, and then it was closed. I think right about that time, the bomb team, K-9 team, SWAT team, they all started to use it. What the K-9 team uses it for is they use it for tracking for rural scenarios. They'll use it when they're on shift. We call it laying down a track, where they'll look at one of their partners and say, you want to go lay down a track. So they'll go out there and they'll lay down a track in that rural setting. That's done on shift. They also have to train for a minimum of 16 hours a month. That's where we do have our K-9 boxes out there. Currently, there's 8 boxes out there, and we've kind of developed a need, or found a need for kind of a area outside the city, because where the current boxes were at in the city of Moorhead up at the range, they went up there to train one day and they found somebody sleeping in them. They do bite and apprehension work out there. They have obedience training and things of that nature. Their hope is to use it for some regional certifications to eliminate the need to go to the metro area. That would be a hope. It'd also be a savings for us, as we wouldn't have to have 3 hotel rooms and send people away for 3 days. There are times where the K-9s, we can have up to 10 K-9 teams out there, because we do regional K-9 training as well. I did talk to the bomb team assistant commander in regards to this. He feels that they've been out there since about 2014. They use it for emergency disposal of any type of recovered explosives, which we just got a call yesterday of somebody that had 5 sticks of dynamite up in their rafters, and that does happen sometimes. It's kind of something that happens quite often. People used to, blow up beaver dams and things like that, and then they forget the dynamite up in their garage. Then they have to transport that. They don't know how stable or unstable that is, so transporting it on a paved roadway rather than a gravel roadway is nice. They have a site to utilize their burn trailer, which is a big cast iron square box. Training and proficiency of the explosive demolition and post-blast investigations. They also utilized the site when they worked with the FBI, ATF to work through possible different avenues of attack with propane tanks, very similar to what we saw on July 14th of 2023. And they do intend on using it in 2025. They're going to get a new, it's called a total containment vessel. What exactly that is, I don't know. I did ask the assistant team commander if dual use would be something that would be in the books, and he didn't feel that would be ideal. They need about a 300 to 600 yard perimeter, depending on what exactly they are doing out there. SWAT team uses it for rural training scenarios. Our SWAT basic can use it, and they end up training people from all of Minnesota, North Dakota out there as well. They also have their explosive breaching training out there. In the past, this equipment was stored on private property, and it did get to be an issue when it was on private property just due to the storage. Also for vehicle scenarios and their rook operations. If you don't know what a rook is like it's an armored bobcat on tracks is what that is, and they use that for several different deployments. And then they also are looking for sniper training. You can use those existing areas out there as like rooftop scenarios and things of that nature. So that's what they use it for. End of the day, that's a very unique property in several different ways for law enforcement for both sides of the river, for both our regional bomb teams and for our K-9 teams as well. Did I miss anything? Got it covered.
Actually, the only other thing was that we did reach out to MCIT to see about the insurability with a dual use. Unfortunately, that was a couple weeks ago, and we have not heard back from them as of yet what their recommendation would be in regards to dual use.
And my concern out there, and I did bring this up when I did speak with one of the members from Buff Run, and you know, if we're out there training for the bomb team or sniper or whatever it might be, and we end up blowing something up and something falls along their track and we don't go clear that, and then somebody comes and drives on that track, then that's on us as far as the liability side. So that is a concern for us. And I know these three gentlemen. I like all three of these gentlemen. I think they're all good people, and I respect I respect what they want to do and what they want to complete here. It's just for us, I don't feel that this would be a good dual use.
Commissioner Mojo, was this, or Sheriff, was this not, were we not aware of the use on this on the Lands Committee?
As far as the Lands Committee goes, what ended up happening, I think in 2014 when we started to get all the permissions, I think I did ask Matt about this as well. I don't think there's a lot of people that are on that committee now that were there in 2014. And I don't know how well the records were taken care of in the past. As far as the canine boxes go, I know that Lieutenant Schroeder and Matt worked together. It did not go through the Lands Committee meeting, and that is on us. I will accept the responsibility for that one is on us.
I believe that's where Billy and I got shot down, and the Moorhead City Council wouldn't fund it, but.
And we've talked about that property as well, even when Steve Lansom was here, about a potential range, because we know that that range in Moorhead is becoming to be a hot topic up there too.
Commissioner Campbell?
Yeah, I'm going to speak to county-owned lands in general, not just this one particular parcel. And I think it's very important that when we have those lands, that this board is aware of what's going on those lands. I guess I can't speak to who was on the Lands Committee in 2014. I know I wasn't.
I can. I mean, I was on in 2015.
Yeah, okay, but my point being is that, you know, how does any one department just go out and do stuff without the board knowing it on this? And the reason I ask that is because on many county-owned lands, I get calls as a commissioner. Is it available for this? Is it available for that? You know, so we get a lot of calls, and if we don't know what's already going on there, we could be creating an issue that we didn't know about. That's my concern on it. But 293 acres is a pretty large area. But I also understand that I don't know that I would want to be one of the people on a bike trail and hear a bomb going off at the same time. I don't know how you can control the safety aspect of that going on, but I
Mr. Chair, he asked me a question, so I might as well follow up on it. So I began a dialogue with the applicants or the residents early on, and I followed the process in regards to how our committee structure, as this board has allocated us to all have committee structure, was the proposal, the site visit, and those dialogues, and agreed. The Sheriff's Department is part of that dialogue, and unfortunately, for whatever reason, wasn't at the one meeting where we talked about a recommendation towards this board, and unfortunately, also, the Sheriff's Department did not present the usage of this land for the new dog boxes to that committee. But nevertheless, I think the reason we're here today is there is a proposal and there are applicants here that I think it's important that they have an opportunity to talk about what their proposal is and how we could fit a need. Certainly, it's solid waste owned land. This board has in the years since 2015 has designated part of that land that we did offer for sale that we didn't see a future use for. And so, I think the reason Matt's here is he does have a dialogue and a proposal that the gentlemen who are in the audience brought forward.
I think we probably need to hear from the gentlemen who are interested in this.
approach and hand you out a
Yep.
what I have in here.
Just wait till you get to the microphone. Mike.
Well, I'm Mike Lemke with Buff Run MC. I have Chad West and Matt Halseth also with me, all Clay County residents. Anyway, the handout I gave you, and you know, I didn't mean to cause a big hoopla about a piece of land that's been abandoned for over 50 years. I didn't find out how important it was. And I want everybody to know that I agree with the county usage for bomb squad and K-9 and all that stuff. So I get that. And out of all this, if that isn't something that's feasible for us to share, I understand 100%, okay? I'm a little nervous, so.
We're all friendly here.
I'm not good at, it'll take me a little bit to calm down, a little coffee in the morning, but, so I gave you a list here that shows some of our ideas, some of the things we like to do within the county. Gave our copy of the membership stuff. What we're doing is we're laying out a mimic to kind of a copy of what they've done down in Oklahoma. And that was city-owned land that they didn't want the liability on and so on. So over time, the club, it ended up going to the university and the club has a lease on it. That's attached in the back here. I've attached a copy of our charter and that nonprofit stuff and whatnot. I did put in a map, and I understand the shared usage 100%. I agree. You know, it's tough. You can't have a firing range and people in the same area. I completely get that. So what I'm asking is that I don't want to go. I want everybody to know I didn't know that the sheriff's department was using it at all. So I didn't want any uproar about any of that stuff. We're just looking for a place to ride, just a place, just ride motorcycles, like a cow path. I kind of explained it in there. It says 4 feet or whatnot, but this is what we're looking to do. And if I can do anything out of this, whether this is granted or not, is the awareness of a need in our area for something like this for people like me. Not me, us. So I guess I'd like you just to entertain it. And if there's other county land that would be amicable to working with on something like this, I'd be open to that too. It's, like I said, I'm not very PC, but like I said, if it works, it works. If not, it's not. It's no sweat off my ass. That's kind of how I said it to when it was discussed. So I guess I'm not looking to change the world. I'm not looking to upset anybody. We just would like a place to ride a motorcycle. We used to have the Hutterite pit. I don't know how right we were able to ride in there, but it was open since the 70s. And every Wednesday night, that's where people went and rode. You could go every Wednesday night to the Hutterite pit. If you guys might not know where that one's at, just south of the farm there. I helped load their cows a couple times. I got out, but anyway, we had that area to ride in, and that's what we're looking for, something like that. And we wanted to come in with a sanctioned club. We wanted to come in with all of our ducks in a row. The insurance thing, that's the reason why we joined the AMA, is that we get into a national pool of insurance to insure property, whether it's this property or other property that or whatnot. So we weren't flipping around trying to do this and that. I have not applied for an insurance policy because I wasn't going to know if we were granted someplace or something to do on this terms. So if anything out of this, it's got the commissioners aware of what's happened on the land, what's going on out there. But I guess I'd like to thank you guys for your time listening. I'm a little jumpy, but I'm open to just anything with if you got property you know of that's, I'll say unusable, because we're like kind of cows out in the field riding motorcycles. So something like that. And the gate and the membership it's open to the public. But the reason why we have it as an AMA charter, if you're an AMA member, you have a separate insurance policy as a person belonging to the club. So it layers the layers of liability out from the property. And by doing that, being a member and a gate, you cannot access that property unless you are a member with a code. And the only way you become a member is you pay your membership due of $80 or $100 or whatever. You get the code, you sign all your liability release forms, and everything is all documented. And so the only people there are ones with the code on to get in, and the responsibility is to lock it and get in and out. So I'm getting better. I calmed down a little bit now.
When do you plan on using this? During the evenings and weekends or during the day too?
Well, see, that's the thing is that most people ride on the weekend, Saturday, a Sunday, maybe a Friday. You know, I could probably tell you if it was open every day of the week, there would maybe be one person that'd go out there in the middle of the week because work schedules. More of an after work type of thing, more in the evening, more weekend style usage. Now, I want you to know, after learning what the Sheriff's Department is doing with it and using with it, I don't want to conflict with any of that. I understand, and to be honest with you, I don't want to have to check in with the Sheriff's Department when we go out there, just like they don't want to check in with us when they want to go out there. Because we all live on a revolving world where, well, today'd be a good day to take the canines out. It's nice out. You know, I get that 100%. So out of all this, if this doesn't work, I'd love it if there be another opportunity somewhere within the county that this would work for.
Thank you.
Dave?
Commissioner Craven.
Yeah, thank you. So Mike, don't be nervous. I just curious, so ideally, I mean, this was a larger acreage, but what would be the parameters of maybe what you're thinking of on acreage? I mean, I know bigger is better, but you kind of have a range?
You know, I mean, quarter second. You know, it's variable. You know, it could be, let's say it was 20-acre stretch that runs the river. That, you know, but it's only however wide, or it can be pretty flexible on that. You know, if I said 80 acres, I mean, that would be great. I'd be thankful for anything. But yeah, that's kind of.
Yeah. By the way, I grew up doing the same thing, but we owned a ranch. So, anyway, I appreciate what you're trying to do.
Matt, do you have any parcels of land that would be alternate to this that come to mind?
Mr. Chair, there are a couple that come to mind, but just in the interest of being fully communicative and transparent, I'd really like to sit down and maybe meet with our County Lands Committee and have all our departments involved and fully vet those before saying, committing anything or offering anything up. There are two, though, that come to mind in the county.
Sheriff, does are you comfortable with the mutual use, or is this something you feel the sheriff's use of this property would be inhibited?
Yeah, there has been at times where we do try and train with others, and even in law enforcement, where it does get to be training conflicts. So we feel that it would be a little bit difficult. And as Mike alluded to, is like he wouldn't want to check in with us and vice versa. I just want to, I appreciate Mike coming up here and speaking and hearing what he had to say and things like that. I've known him for a long time. I've always appreciated Mike, and you know, thank you for working with us through this.
You know,
Commissioner Campbell.
So Sheriff, so if I'm understanding this correctly, is the total area, Matt, is the total area 200 and some acres that we have here?
Yeah, 293. A lot of it is wetlands.
Okay.
This stuff up to the north too is, I mean, it's very wet in there. So yeah, it is 290 some acres, but usable acres, once you start counting wetlands up, it goes down quite.
And there's no way that that could be divided where a track could be on one part and the sheriffs could be on a totally separate part where they would not intermingle?
Well, just taking into consideration like the buffers that the sheriff alluded to, and I'm not exactly sure where on the property is the prime area for detonating. I'd have to kind of work through that too and see if,
That's just it. I don't know what's going on out there, so.
Yeah.
Sniper training, you've got to have a pretty big chunk of land.
Where is that done now? The sniper training.
Certainly don't do it in the Moorhead range.
Well, they're not doing it at the Moorhead Range.
No.
Right now, they're not shooting out there. They're just able to train out there and do some mimicking, and eventually would like to do that, but they are not shooting out there right now.
Okay, yeah, this has been a long time need that we were unable to address. When I was working for the city, and Billy and I came up with the bright idea that this would be a good place for a range. I believe we might have even talked to Mr. Melton when he was with the National Guard about your guys could qualify locally if you guys bring in some people and do the dirt work, but it never went anywhere. We couldn't get any funding. I don't know if we're ready to act. I mean, I'll certainly be happy to hear a motion, but I think there's an awful lot of questions on this that we should maybe explore before we lock in on a motion.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Mosho.
Thank you. I think part of the dialogue that we need to have is the board open to allowing some sort of RFP for use on county-owned property? We talk about the boxes being checked on making sure folks have all their ducks in a row, and this is something that needs to be permitted as well at the planning commission level. But as we talk about what county-owned properties usefulness is to the greater good, I think there's ways that we can mitigate this with both parties, but I also think, if there's an additional land component elsewhere, maybe that makes sense too. So I think this board, one, needs to maybe have a general consensus if we're open to entities applying for RFPs for uses on our county-owned properties that we can't get rid of or holding on to for other reasons. I think why this one group applications seem to really fit a need is because they're not asking to build any permanent type of facility out there. It's also something that can kind of ebb and flow with what the needs of the land use is. But know that we also have some other additional properties that are really sitting there that we can't do anything with.
Commissioner Krabanoff.
Yeah, so if you're wanting feedback, and as I think about the county lands, I'm certainly open for those possibilities. I will say I'm not in favor of this one, but for the idea of looking at those tracks, and I think it'd even be helpful guidance from Matt as to what possibilities of type things beyond dirt bikes. I like the idea of the dirt bikes. I think it all fits. However, maybe there's some other uses as possibilities without trying not to be restrictive, right? But just to engage thought, toward what are these other possibilities for those types of lands that seem appropriate. Another question I have on this one, Matt, if I may, how would it be, and would we have to, on wetlands, would it even be allowed for a track to go through a wetland, do you think, under WACA?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Krabanoff, that'd be a good question for
Okay.
I would think as long as you're not filling a wetland,
Okay.
If you're just riding through one, I think that would be.
I just didn't know, and it even goes back not just bikes, ATVs, right?
Yeah, and whenever it comes to like excavation or filling, Typically, that's when things get a little more restrictive with wetlands. If you're talking about, riding through one with an ATV or a off-road motorcycle, dirt bike, whatever, I don't think that that's as big of an issue, to my understanding.
I mean, just-
Same with like haying or doing vegetation management on wetlands too, so.
Okay.
But really, I think it's the filling or the excavating where there can be issues.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Campbell.
Yeah, I think looking at other sites is probably a good idea at this point in time, but I do want everybody to remember that this parcel was purchased from our enterprise funds, which is solid waste funds. And I don't know that there's ever been dialogue with solid waste. Obviously, what we've come up with as a board is we've come up with other solutions to long-term planning for our landfill. But I don't know that there's ever been discussion about what that use of that property would be in the future. And the investment on that land came from an enterprise fund. And, and again, that goes to how we go about starting to use county-owned land prior to having dialogue at the board level on what it should be. And that's the concern that I have. What if SWAC would have had some future intentions of that land? They bought it. I mean, it was solid waste funds that bought it. Does that border with our what's the other landfill that we have on North Highway 10?
Does border the demo landfill yet?
It borders the demo landfill. Have we ever had dialogue about that? And what's the future of the demo landfill? And could there be needs for that? And again, I'm a little frustrated that we've put uses in there with really out the board knowing. I'm being quite blunt here about that.
Corey, do you have anything to add to this? Basically, it's your land.
You keep telling me it's my land, but I don't think it is. Initially, I was in favor of the track. I did, as all of you, I was not aware of the sheriff's department using it. After I talked to, or we were informed the sheriff's department was using it, I don't think it makes sense if we can't share the property to make the sheriff's department incur a bunch more expenses when they're already using it. Yeah. As far as the demo landfill, my guess is that demo landfill is going to close in sometime in the near future. I don't intend on, or at this point, don't intend on expanding it. If we did, we could come up with some compromise there. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm in favor of both, but I don't know that they can share the property. So, and I'm not aware if maybe the property directly west of the landfill would work. It's something we could look at there. It may be too wet, but it would be something I would offer up as a potential solution.
Would be that much of a problem if we want to work together, that we just put a sign there? You have to unlock it to get in there. Couldn't you just put a sign, have two signs there, in use by Sheriff's Department and in use by bike, whatever, the company or whatever the name is? And then we should be aware that someone's in there. Unless there has to be more communication than that.
My fear would be that would open it up to human error. Somebody forgets they're excited to ride, they forget to change the sign.
My concern on that, Mr. Chair and Commissioner Gross, would be as if the sheriff's department does have a bomb they got to get rid of. I don't know, can they just patiently wait for?
That's a big piece of land to make sure it's clear.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I can see where there could be some complications there with that, but.
next time somebody finds Grandpa's souvenir hand grenade or half a box of dynamite, you don't want to have to clear a couple hundred acres to make sure you can blow it up without either scaring or hurting somebody.
Well, I think those situations come up very rarely.
Yeah.
You know, and, I guess it only needs once, I mean, but it's just, can we be compatible and work something out? I mean, this land is just sitting there not being used. Let's use it.
You know, I don't, I'll ask for consensus or thoughts on this. Can we put this off, and Matt, would you work with the motorcycle group to see if we have an alternative? And,
Mr. Chair, you have a committee recommendation and an agenda item. And so in talking with Mr. Melton, what we would want to do is take action, ask for a motion. If there's no motion, either move forward based on that.
okay. Do we have a motion on this?
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay,
I make a motion to deny accepting request for proposals and bids to lease the Riverton Township county-owned property for a single-track dirt bike course due to conflicts with the existing and potential county uses of the property.
okay, do we have a second? Do we have a second? Do we have a second? Motion dies for lack of a second. We have an alternative motion.
Mr. Chair, I don't think it's out of our boundaries to be able to table an issue.
Steve and I mean, you either be a motion to act, I mean, you have to take some type of action. The other one would be to table, and that's typically with a designated time frame. It sounds like that the board is looking or needs more information.
Yeah.
You know, it comes forward sometimes with imperfect information, but I mean, the question is just how long, I don't know the answer off the top of my head, how long you could table it for, but it sounds like you need additional information.
Well, is it tabling, can you say a 2-month period, for example? Can you, I mean, do you have to be date specific?
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that, you know, 298 acres is a lot of space.
It is a lot.
It's a lot of land. And I guess if there is a recommendation for an action out of it, I would just, maybe if this board is amenable to continued dialogues, because I don't hear anyone say, no, this doesn't work at all, is to allow us the flexibility to work with the Lands Committee, the Sheriff's Office, and the proposed group to see if there is a way to mitigate it with a buffer. I think what we're forgetting is that the demo landfill has folks utilizing and coming in and out of that as well. And so it's closer to what the sheriff's office is using than maybe the far corner reaches of this property. 298 acres is a lot of space. And so I guess my recommendation would be that this board is in favor of a continued dialogue to see if there is a proposal of space that would work on this, but if not, identify additional components where this could work countywide. And I don't think that's a formal motion, I think it's a direction.
I think if we can come up to a consensus on that, we could move to table this until we have some answers.
Mr. Chair, too, I could add that if you did make a motion to deny, that doesn't mean that and that was passed, that doesn't mean that this couldn't be worked out and brought up again in the future. It's not put it off the table completely, I don't think. It would just put it off the table for today.
Commissioner Campbell?
Mr. Chair,
We already acted on it, right? I mean, there was an action.
Well, and I called for a second and there was no second.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Chair, I do believe that, in all fairness to everybody, we should have some sort of a time frame involved here so that we can come with some sort of solution. I just looked on my calendar, and I do agree with Commissioner Mojo that maybe the Lands Committee, the Sheriff's Department, and you know what other public interests might have on that property should have that dialogue, and I guess I would make a motion that it go back to the Lands Committee for further review, and I would also suggest that they report back by our March 4th meeting with some sort of additional information for us to make decisions on. That gives a couple of months' time frame to try to work things out. I don't think this is anything that's earth-shattering that requires a decision in the next 24 hours. So let's just take the time to work something out. I saw.
Mr. Chair, we have a citizen that would like to make a comment as well. Is that appropriate at this time
On this issue?
on this issue?
Mr. Chair, I think I was making that in the form of a motion.
Yeah.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Now we can have that.
If the citizen wants to make a comment on this, I think that's appropriate. We do limit it to 3 minutes, and it must be on this issue. And if you would give us your name and your address, ma'am.
My name is Connie Oshner, and I live at 15108 15th Avenue North in Glendon. And I apologize for not being more prepared, but I just found out about this at about 9 o'clock last night. But we live just to the north and the west of there, and my concern is the noise. We had the Buffalo River Speedway, this Buffalo River Race Park before, which was a mile away, and this is much closer. And the noise, when that was going on, was very disruptive to our lives. And my other concern is they say it's only open to AMAA members, but those are, AMA is one of the largest organizations of motorcycles in the country. So it's, and my other concern is there are, excuse me if I could read one thing here. It says Minnesota boasts thousands of trails to meet any skill levels and desire, from flat to open to for beginners to winding trails, and that's for this is on the their website, and it says ATV and dirt bike trails through state forests and former mining areas along old railroad tracks and beyond. So there are places for them to ride in this, within, I mean, it might be 250 miles, but there are places for them to ride, not just in, was it Oklahoma that they had mentioned, but my main concern is the noise, and there's a lot of residents in that area. There's over, I believe, 20 in that close area. So I just wanted to bring it up and let you know that it's something that it concerns us, and it concerns us, the access. You say, well, there might only be one person out there during the week, but honestly, one motorcycle or 10, it doesn't make much difference. There's still a lot of noise. And like I said, I'm not very prepared, but I just wanted to make you aware that as a resident out there, we are concerned about the noise and the disruption. So I thank you for your time, and I thank these guys for their time also.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, we will revisit this, and thank you for everybody's input on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, next is Rory Schmidt. Top that, Rory.
I hope it's quicker. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My first item for today's agenda here is to purchase a replacement server hardware. The primary servers we have are 5-6 years old and at their end of life. We did receive 3 quotes from this, which we'd like to go with the lowest option, which is $74,537.34 from Marco for some new Dell servers. The other 2 quotes came in from Bytespeed, $88,752, and High Point Networks at $110,922. Funding for this would be coming out of internal services replacement funds. Any questions on that?
Questions for Rory?
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you, Rory. Whoop, you've got more.
Yes, I do. Two more.
Huh.
Do you need to introduce the next agenda item, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, all right. So the next item here is to request to purchase new networking hardware. So currently we have some kind of backbone network switches that all of our servers connect to. Actually, the servers that you just approved connect to primarily for storage networking, and that is also at its end of life at 5-6 years old. We did get 3 quotes for that, and we'd like to go with the lowest cost option there through High Point Networks for extreme switches at $43,390. The next quote came in from HPE switches through SHI for $50,786. And the last one for Cisco switches through CDWG at $66,973.12. And this would also come out of internal services equipment replacement funds.
Now, you say that these are 6 years old, does that mean you can't use them anymore, or?
You could still use them, but with the technology changes so much, we're looking at faster speeds now.
Okay.
For this next generation hardware, just to.
I'll make a motion to approve the $43,390 bid.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And your next,
All right, this
Oh,
last one
motion
is unique in that my department should only come around once every 3 years on this. It's our Microsoft services and software contract. We do a 3-year term with Microsoft, and due to the large amount per year, we did get the initial quote through SHI, who is our Microsoft reseller currently. That first quote came in at $261,959.53 per year for 3 years. By going to a national contract that's recognized by the state of Minnesota, we were able to knock that down to $253,837.52 per year over the next 3 years. So it saves us, just by jumping on that contract, it saves us $8,122.01 per year. So with the high amount, I'm relatively new to this, but according to our state statutes and the county procurement policy, it appears that if we're using a state or national contract like this, it's not required to go out for bid or receive multiple quotes. I did also confirm that with our local state auditor as well. And to reference, that statute is 375 point, let's see here, sorry. Statute 471.345 subdivision 15 is the one in question.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Campbell.
Roy, what was the annual amount that we were paying before?
It's pretty close to that. I don't have that in front of me, but it's up in that 230, 240 per year.
And is that based on users? So we have so many licenses.
Right. Yep. And it's not uncommon to, in the middle of the year, to have to true up and with HR letting us know that we move from 620 employees up to 680 now, or 690, whatever it is. So it's not uncommon we have to do a true up in the middle of this 3-year term.
So the amount really is based on number.
Based on what we're at the current point in time.
Number of users.
Depending on growth, that could increase. So if it's recommended, I can sure come back to board, and anytime we need to increase those licenses throughout the year, I'm more than happy to do that.
Well, I mean, I think it is what it is when it comes to that. We're basically setting a contract per user, and if the users change, that contract will change. I think what would be more important is if we had a certain dollar amount in the budget and during the course of the year, and it was really gonna exceed that, just to maybe give board notice that, boy, what we budgeted was, you know, short as opposed to anything.
Right, absolutely.
Mr. Chair, do we have a motion on this?
No.
I had moved to approve the 3-year contract.
Second.
Have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. All right. Darren Brooks, our annual renewal.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm hoping this isn't contentious at all. This is always the annual year-end piece of information that I bring to the board. The first thing has to do with the grid adjustments for 2025. As you recall, we have 9 unions that have already bargained for and settled for 2025 at the 3% COLA. And earlier this year, I believe it was about in August, we got the results of our 2024 market study, and that also recommended a 3% increase to the grid. So that would be a total of 6% increase to the grid starting in 2025. And I don't know if you want to take these individually or you want to do it all at the same time. It would be up to you, Chair.
I think we should give it a try to do it all at the same time, if that's
Do that.
good with the,
Yeah.
That would be fine.
okay.
Mo says individually. Mo
The,
says individually.
Oh,
We'll see.
I do have a question on one, so I don't know if I have to do them individually or not.
I think we do if it's advertised that way.
I can't remember what we've done in the past. I
Well,
think it
says on
might
here
have been
individually,
individually.
So we'll have to do them individually.
Okay. So the first item would be the total grid adjustment for 2025 of 6%.
Mr. Chair, I'll offer a motion to approve a grid adjustment.
second.
Have motion,
That's the 3% grid adjustment.
Correct.
Okay.
for a total of 6%. Well, nope.
No.
Nope, I see. Okay, grid adjustment of 3%, and we have motion a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pose same sign. Motion passes.
The second item would be the 3% market adjustment that was recommended in 2024 for 2025.
Okay, have a motion. Do we have any questions on this, or do we have a motion?
Well, I would have a question on that one, you know. I don't know if our market study reflected commissioner salaries at all, or we're just giving ourselves a 3% raise, because the other guys got it, but because they did a market study.
Correct.
Were the commissioners ever in this market study?
I don't think they looked at
I
commissioners.
just feel somewhere along the line, we as commissioners should set an example that we don't just take increases, and just set an example that, you know, we'll forgo one increase.
I have been here about 14 years, and I think the year before, Commissioner Campbell took a different percentage, but since 14 years, the commissioners have always increased with the same as the rest of the employees.
But I think for clarification, commissioners are not eligible for step increments, increases.
Correct.
So they are excluded from those types of.
Correct.
Correct.
So they would only get the COLA and market study. They do not have a step.
Great.
Mr. Chair, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a full, we consider it a full-time job, but it's not a full-time job. So I'm just looking at, should we set an example once and forgo? And I'll make a motion to that.
Okay, your motion is that
Not to forego the 3% market study adjustment.
for commissioners,
Yes.
okay? Do we have a second? Do we have a second? Do we have a second? Okay, the motion dies for lack of a second.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we adopt the 3% market study adjustment as proposed in our preliminary levy.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? Okay. Motion passes. Okay, Darren?
Meal reimbursement rates, $15 for breakfast, $20 for lunch, and $30 for dinner. That was last updated in 2019. I should make note that all of this had been taken to the PIC and forwarded to the board with these recommendations.
Were they forwarded unanimously?
I'm sorry?
They were all forwarded for approval?
Yes.
Okay, any questions or discussion?
Mr. Chair, I would move that the meal reimbursement rates remain the same at $15 for breakfast, $20 for lunch, and $30 for dinner.
I'll second the motion.
Yeah, motion and second. Any further discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Okay, the next item is the per diem rates. Currently, they are at $100 per day. That was last updated in 2015.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, I would move that we remain the same with our per diem rates at $100 per day.
I'll second the motion.
Yeah.
Okay, a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
The next
Motion
item
passes.
was the IRS mileage rate increase. I just looked online this morning. That is, the 2025 rate is not out yet, but the way we have it in our personnel policy is that we would follow the IRS mileage reimbursement rate. For this year, it's 67 cents per mile. It usually varies a couple pennies, so it's not a huge cost one way or the other.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we adopt the IRS mileage rate increase, or mileage rate.
Increase or decrease?
Well,
whatever it is.
just the,
Align with the.
adopt the IRS mileage rate.
Correct.
For 2025.
Correct.
Second the motion.
Okay, a motion and second. Any discussion?
That number has been known to go up and it's been known to go down.
Yep, exactly.
Whatever it is.
Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Okay.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Last item is the 2025 furlough program. This has been ongoing for many, many years. Basically, it allows the individual employee to take unpaid leave if they don't have enough sick leave or vacation saved up. They can take up to 144 hours per year, and that has to be supervisor and approval. And then they track that. We can also track that, the departments track that on their own as well. So for 2004 so far, we had 1,401 hours that were used as furlough time, and that basically saved the county $38,740.98 in wages that were not paid out. And so the recommendation is to extend the furlough program for 2025 as well.
Okay, do we have any discussion?
I move to approve the 2025 furlough program that will reflect no change from 2024.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
I think I have the next agenda item too.
Your next item.
Which is setting the salaries for the 2025 salaries for elected officials. I just found out this year through our communications coordinator that this had to be in resolutions rather than just out in a non-resolution. So the proposal is that the 2025 salaries for elected officials, county commissioners would be $39,252.41 per year. The county attorney would be at $182,910, and the county sheriff would be $161,432. And I don't know if you wanted me to read the entire resolution or.
I don't think that'll be necessary. It's part of the record.
It's in the record.
Good question, if I may? Yeah.
Mr. Krabanoff.
So we're going back to county commissioners. In that number, does that reflect the 3%?
Correct. That's the
What they're called.
3% COLA, 3%
Yeah,
mark.
okay, thank you.
And that is for all of them.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I would move resolution 2024-39.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can we just take a couple minutes break?
Break?
Well, we were set to take a break at 12:20.
Okay.
Take a brief break. I've had too many children to sit here this long.
Let's take a 10-minute break.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
We are back in session. And next up is our county administrator, who has a couple of items. Steve, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first item before you for your consideration this morning is change order number 8 for the Withdrawal Management Detoxification Program. As has been well discussed by Commissioner Campbell and Commissioner Mojo through the construction process, we had an issue with some of our doors, and so a great deal of work has happened over the last 4 to 6 weeks in order to get the doors properly functioning. With that came some additional fees totaling $44,723.35. There's also an additional $8,500 that's being requested by Gertz Construction for work outside of the contract, with the understanding that by ordering new doors, this would have cost over $200,000. And so the request before you, misprint there, is the total request is $53,223.37 as listed on the withdrawal management invoice. With that, I'd yield for any questions.
Questions for Steve?
So these doors that we put in now, it wasn't included in the original bid?
The software and the doors that were put in, my understanding, weren't compatible, and so they had to work to make sure that the two programs could talk to each other.
They didn't both speak English, huh? Okay. Very good.
Yeah, and I to maybe piggyback off that, it was a tricky maneuvering to make sure that we were able to mitigate that in the most cost-friendly way, I guess is the way to say that. And I know it took a substantial amount of discussion and time and retrofitting, but we really do feel that this is the best case scenario.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Hey, Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Clay County Board of Commissioners, as part of part of the Metro Flood Diversion Authority Board and several committees. Each year, the Moorhead Metro Flood Diversion Authority Board requests an updated action by this board designating our commissioners and personnel that will be attending. So where we have on here today are the committee assignments as they are in 2024 with the area that we're looking for an alternate on the Fargo Moorhead Diversion Board of Authority. We would need an appointment there, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Campbell.
Yeah, thank you. I know that Commissioner Gross served as the alternate previously, and I did reach out with Commissioner Mojo, and with her work now that she does on the MCC GAPA board, she's willing to serve as alternate, and I think that kind of makes more sense. She's in tune with that. A lot of stuff that goes on is within her district. And so, Mr. Chair, I would move that we authorize the slate of positions, including the alternate on the Diversion Authority Board, to be Commissioner Mojo.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
All right, Mr. Chair, finally, our last one is establishing the budget for 2025. We'll be looking for two motions today. Today is an extremely important day as the Commission considers establishing the 2025 budget. As you are aware, this process started back at the end of May. We've had several presentations from department heads and non-county entities that receive funding from the county after having been reviewed by Ms. Johnson and I. This commission has held multiple discussions, provided guidance and direction, and received budget updates throughout the process. That got us to our Truth and Taxation evening on November 26th, where citizens had the opportunity to provide feedback on the proposed budget. As always, we appreciate the citizens' engagement and feedback. I would want to just clarify a question that was brought up by Commissioner Mojo on Truth and Taxation evening. She made note that our licenses and permits were about $440,000 less than previous years. And speaking with Ms. Johnson, those funding for the food, pool, and lodging and sewer permits were inadvertently put in public health, and so they were captured, and so just in the wrong place, and so that has been adjusted. And so within your packet, I do have some additional information just from a budget standpoint. Again, we generally have our half-cent sales tax updates. As you can see, with one payment remaining, we're at $4,141,170.97. That's a little bit lower than where we were at, but still, it's still going to come out above the previous year before that. And so, again, as we've talked about, this is an area that we continue to look at and talk about as we've shared that currently the sales tax covers all of our principal and interest payment. And so Ms. Johnson and I continue to monitor that on a monthly basis when that payment comes in. The second item, just wanted to touch base on a little bit, is our expenses. Again, revenues generally fall 6 weeks to 2 months behind, but I know that this board has asked as we got closer to the end of the year to highlight where we are from a budget perspective. Again, I believe this is through November. First payroll in December. And so, as you can see, from a budget perspective, we are in a strong position. There are a couple different areas that I would touch on. Information services has a deficit or expenses over revenues of $117,440. This would be because of the shift that we've had in the administrative area. Jackie's position is now listed in that area. Elections. Again, Ms. Johnson saves for elections in over 2 years, and then is elections every other year, and so you're seeing a larger amount expended this year. It's kind of utilized like our internal service. Emergency management, we have our last ARPA dollars that are being sent through there, and so that is the large increase there. If you look at the rest of our expenditures through the budget, we are within the time frame of the year of where we should be. And with that, I'd yield for any questions on anything with the budget expenditures.
Commissioner Krabanoff.
Yeah, so I'm sorry. I was looking at numbers and not listening. Why is that number change so big with emergency management?
That would have been where the ARPA money comes out of that, the spending for that comes out of that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
I would also note, again, I talked about internal service from a budget standpoint on an annual basis. Our departments come through the county auditor and then through our department and then ultimately before this board. And other than internal service and the funding that we provide, that we're saving for from an insurance standpoint within this budget, this 2025 will be the last year that we are capped from our insurance at 9%. We'll be having to go out for bid next year, anticipating some of the cost increases that we would have seen had we not been in a cap. We've saved some dollars for that in anticipation that we may see a jump. And so that additional $250,000 is captured in the 2025 budget. With that, I would yield for any questions.
Questions for Steve?
Make a motion to approve the budget.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Gross, if I could have two motions. The first one would be to approve the budget based on the expenses on this document, which are $123,990,095.
Just what he said.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Just for the motion passed, and just for the public's information, we have been kept abreast and have worked on this budget for months now. And the brevity of this approval is simply that we're familiar with it and it is the product that we're expecting. Steve, you want to continue?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The second item is a motion to approve Resolution 2024-40, establishing the levy at $44,866,746.
Do we have a motion?
I move to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Discussion? Questions? If not, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just note that we were able to make a few minor adjustments, and that from our preliminary levy at 4.62, the final levy based on your action today will be 4.45. So thank you for your direction during the last 6 months.
Thank you for your leadership. All right, committee reports. And we'll start with Commissioner Campbell.
All right, I don't have quite as much because I was gone for a while in sunny Arizona. Warm, sunny Arizona. Sounds good, doesn't it? Oh, okay. And I came back to cold Minnesota. And my first thing was attending the AMC conference in Minneapolis on Tuesday and Wednesday. And my highlight of the deal, of course, there were different things that we went to, but the recognition of our retiring commissioners was important, and I wanted to be there for that as we, at the AMC level, we said goodbye to all of our retiring commissioners, including Commissioner Gross. And so it was nice to be there to see him honored as a retiring commissioner. I returned then, and on Thursday, I had a Lakes Country Service Cooperative meeting in Fergus Falls, and I serve on their budget committee, or excuse me, their audit committee, and we did go through the audit, and they got a very good review on their audit, so that was nice to see. And they are looking at I think, Steve, Jeremy Kovash has reached out to you. They're potentially looking for a site in the Moorhead area for a future building that, that can serve. They're seeing an increase in number of kids that they could, potentially serve. So there's work going on right now and looking for a facility or building in Moorhead. Yesterday we had our PRTF pre-design meeting and our non-secure juvenile update. I think we're getting down to really having some final draft proposals, and I believe that on the 6th of January or somewhere in that time frame, it'll be coming before the board with what we have in terms of design. I think on the PRTF, I don't think there's a real significant amount of modifications that would need to be done there, but obviously there's going to be on the new non-secure area. It's significant, and it's a lot of work has been done with that. Commissioner Mojo may have some additional comments on that, but you'll be getting an update very soon as a board. This morning we had a highway tracking committee meeting. They continue to have an issue. They've had the diesel mechanic position open for quite some time right now, and they've had one application in 5 weeks, and then that individual declined the interview. So, I think we're probably going to end up having to look at compensation levels there. I think if we're not getting any applicants, it's saying that maybe our grid in that particular area is way off. So I think Darren will probably have some additional things to say about that, and it's Justin's intention to bring that to PIC probably in January to discuss. We did recommend for this board to move forward with a maintenance foreman pickup, and we reviewed a 3-year lease option versus a purchase outright option, and the purchase outright option was just slightly under $2,000 more than the lease, and yet at the end of the purchase we'd probably have a $20-some thousand value in trade-in. So the recommendation that he'll be bringing forward is to purchase that vehicle. We had some discussion on, we also had a presentation on mower tractors that are up. There's a recommendation that's going to be coming before to replace 2 mowers. And those will be covered, and incidentally, both of those will be fully funded by the Internal Service Fund. So, and he gave a little update. There's going to be a public meeting, Commissioner Mojo, there's going to be a public meeting on the Comstock urban reconstruction in early January. That's got to do with, that's going to be funded by the Diversion Authority. I think Justin was going to make sure you and I were aware of those dates. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Commissioner Gross?
On the December 6th, I had a meeting, talked to on the Partnership for Health, talked about the vaping and stuff like that. There was a discussion on that, about the thing that they're going to bring forward. We discussed that at the meeting today. That was taken care of then. Then I attended the AMC meeting, went to the MRC on Sunday night. Representative Paul Torkelson talked there. I was surprised to hear that on people that are doing our lobbying for MRC, Britta Torkelson, the daughter to Senator Torkelson, so we should have good representation there. And pretty much the things that they're going to talk about this year are mandate relief, state fraud, paid family leave, ambulance service in rural areas, birthing services, nursing homes, tax and security, and Minnesota has the highest corporate tax. So that's some of the items they're going to be talking about this year. In the opening session on Monday morning, I think it was pretty much just a verbal description of what he does. I don't know if he gives anything new to talk about, but just sort of what he does and what he's done in the past. They did talk about the $5.1 billion shortfall in the budget come 27, 28 that they're having some concern about. So that'll be coming in the future for you guys to take care of. Send some money, I'm sure they'd appreciate it. I went to I went to was cannabis use and prevention. They were talking about the sales tax that it could generate and stuff like that for people. For some counties, it'll help out. Let's see, the other meeting I went to was juvenile delinquency. I thought it was more on recidivism, but it was more just on juveniles getting. We thought the American natives were being punished more than the whites, so a little discussion on that. Another one I went to was the roundabouts, and this roundabout that we're doing south of Moorhead, it was the company that gave the presentation is the one that designed that one, so they used our roundabout as an example of how to do a roundabout along a railroad track. Excuse me for my voice, it's breaking up. I should probably quit talking. Went to one with a census survey and roundabouts, I think the rest aren't. Thursday morning, I went to Beyond the Yellow Ribbon. Pretty much talked to MSUM. I'm getting very active in working with the veterans, the veterans organization. It will cover up to 18 credits for veterans going to MSUM. And other than that, I was just talking about Christmas parties coming up and stuff like that. Yesterday, talked about Partnership for Health. We had a request from Otter County that they want to withdraw from the Partnership for Health thing that we've got that's been going for almost 10 years, and they want to withdraw from that. So they gave their 1-year notice yesterday. And this morning we had highway tracking, which Kevin talked about. That's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Krabanoff.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I too went to the annual the annual conference. My area of public health and human services, Administrator Larson and Commissioner Mojo joined me in doing a PTRF presentation to the Public Health and Human Services Policy Committee. And thank you to you too. I thought, and it was very well received. We got good feedback from people throughout the whole conference, and I think extended our promotion to other counties going further down the state. So we did get responses from Hennepin and also Fillmore of support, and maybe others more forthcoming. So the other part was having to do, I went to one about the upcoming marijuana law, cannabis, I should say, and that'll be coming in. And one of the concerns that public health has in a big way is in last session, in the initial framework of the cannabis law, they were going to allow $10 million to go out to counties for helping with registration, regulation, and prevention, and they took $3.6 million out of that. So high on the agenda. First is the high acuity that we're dealing with in mental health, and then second was trying to get that $3.6 million back. So those are two areas that those agencies will be working with legislators. Thursday the 12th was a PRTF strategy meeting with Rep. Keeler. Again, working with legislative staff to get us deeper into agency dialogue, along with moving along to talking with aides for the governor, and again more outreach to the counties. That afternoon, I had the Class WCD monthly board meeting. Highlights of that, just to let you know, they had their review of the personnel committee for their employees. This will be reflected in their 25 budget. They're giving a 3% COLA, and then they gave $1 an hour raises into their merit. Their personnel handbook was also being reviewed to meet new state updates and other requirements. So that was updated. Want to talk about one thing, Snaky Creek, which is over on 11th Street. That repair was completed, and they came $40,000 under the estimate, and so they're going to use those funds, working along with Justin and the watershed to do some ditch repair in other ditch repairs in Clay County with that money. They had their annual convention the week before ours. Big things were elections, budget, and I do want to make mention of their big legislative item is going to be the SWCD aid. When that was passed 2 years ago, $15 million went out as SWCD aid in 2024, and for whatever reason, they reduced 2025 to $12 million. So from what they had last year, if that is true and they don't get legislators to fill that gap or get the money back out of the Clean Water Fund, they will potentially have a reduction from the state of about $70,000. So we'll see where they're at when they come with their budget next spring. I think kind of finishing up on that one, tree sales have already started. They got 18 planting jobs already, and it's not even January. Friday, we had I'm kind of repeating here a little bit, but Rep. Keeler, another Teams meeting with legislative staff, I already mentioned that. And then also I had the County Extension Committee meeting. Good meeting. Just a lot of good background on the work they've been doing, kind of talk about their year-end work. And I do want a little highlight here. I don't have it. I had it. How many kids they work with is pretty amazing. And had the page marked even. Anyway, I'm just going to give out a couple things, awareness. So in Clay County, they have 584 participants. They had 145 new 4-Hers in Clay County last year. Of the group from 2023, they've retained 75% of the people from that time, and they have 344 club members where they're in clubs, and then they have 281 kids in the after-school and partnership programs in Clay County. So they do tremendous work, and the amount of kids that go to higher ed is very high, and it's just great leadership, and what a wonderful program. We also had a presentation from Julian, who is our local educator, horticulturalist, and master gardener, and she talked about the work she did. The master garden program had 6 for this year, and they picked up 7 new interns, and then they talked all the things they do in town, doing garden tours and the like. So that was that. Yesterday, again, back to the PRTF, I thought a very exciting day. And we heard at the chamber this morning, we had Senator Kupek come in with Health and Human Services Chair, Senator Hoffman from St. Paul. He will be, between those two, the big ones will be trying to leverage. And as we work forward with the promotion of the PRTF, Senator Krupa this morning at the Chamber Leaders Roundtable really did, I thought, a big shout out, rah rah, for all the things they saw. And Senator Hoffman was, I take it for his body language and everything he had for that 2 hours. He was excited about what we were doing and couldn't believe how much Clay County engages not only what they're trying to do there, but how they work with through the juvenile center, the way of education, transitional, and whatnot. So it was really nice to get an outside perspective of the great work we're doing here. So, and then this morning back to the event hosted by the Chamber, we had that Leaders Roundtable. That's my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Mojo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last week, or starting the first week of December, rather, I had a number of PRTF discussions. Thankful for the weekly updates that we have with Representative Keeler and strategizing how we move that initiative forward. Thursday the 5th, I had a CAP-LP discussion dialogue with our Administrator Larson on CAP-LP's willingness to provide some sort of route addition from the DMV to the Walmart bus stop. We have funded their rural transportation bus, and there seems to be an availability for them to offer a route on Mondays, so I appreciate that willingness. I also had the CAP-LP board and governance board training that evening. The next day, after 6 weeks, we were able to finally procure a meeting with the governor's office. So we met with 2 of Governor Walz's aides on the proposal for the PRTF as we continue to move that initiative forward. Really grateful for the opportunity to share that need with them. Sunday the 8th, I am grateful for the opportunity to attend the AMC annual conference and was able to sit through the MRC meeting. A really great presence from our lobbyist group there and bringing awareness to smaller county issues at the Capitol. And then the 9th through the 11th with all of you was able to attend the entire conference. Great breakout sessions, grateful for the opportunity to present at the Health and Human Services Committee. I know Commissioner Ebbinger was also able to present the PRTF component at his Public Safety Committee. I was voted vice chair rather of the Environment and Natural Resources Policy Group, and was able to hand deliver our PRTF project to Governor Walz. On the 12th, we had an additional discussion with House research leadership for the PRTF bill, And Friday, the County Extension Committee meeting and another meeting with Representative Keeler on the PRTF bill. I did then have conversations with Representative Joy on strategizing. Today, yesterday, we were able to host Senator Hoffman and Senator Kupek at the West Central Regional Juvenile Center. Really a testament to the work that Clay County has done in lifting that facility all those years ago. I know there was a lot of concern from the state on how something like that could work, and Clay County is really, with the partners of all of the counties that buy the bed purchasing component, it's really a great facility that we have there. And then yesterday we also had the PRTF meeting with architects and staff. This morning I was able to attend the chamber dialogue on legislative priorities and appreciate the LEC for hosting. That concludes my reports.
Thank you. I'll try and keep it brief. On Wednesday, the 4th, I participated in the weekly call that Commissioner Krabanoff and Commissioner Mojo have with legislative, excuse me, it's been a long meeting, with Representative Keeler, reviewed it, involving the PRTF. I was doing that because I have the ability to reach out to Commissioner Schnell with corrections and Commissioner Jacobson with public safety. And we wanted to bring them up to speed on this. They're both very receptive to the idea. I think we're, again, getting the word out very well. I did go over the PRTF facts with the Public Safety Committee with the AMC at our meeting, which we had this week. I also attended that. We had our public safety policy, finally voted on the last policy priorities we wanted to bring forward. The rest of the meeting was pretty well covered by the other commissioners, but as always, it was a very informative and productive use of 4 days. I did attend the MCIT annual meeting. While I was there, we elected new officers, and the business meeting for the AMC. On Thursday, the 12th, I attended a meeting with the had a phone conference for the Greater Fargo Moorhead EDC with Tom Iverson. He's a consultant that's doing an evaluation there and wanted some input from me. Monday, we had a meeting with the Partnership for Health, and as Commissioner Gross indicated, we did receive notice from Otter Tail that they want to leave the partnership, and my understanding is Late Development, Wilkin County, will also be leaving with them. It'll be a year that we've got to work our way through this, but we're prepared to do so. And then today, before this meeting, I attended the Chamber legislative meeting. I really appreciate the Chamber. They are actively trying to get the entire county, our entire region, to engage with our legislators and address the needs of our businesses. And that completes my report. Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 2 Tuesdays ago, we began the onboarding of Commissioner-elect Bear, both on Tuesday after board and also on Wednesday. Wednesday, we had a Strive leadership meeting. We talked about our spring intergovernmental retreat, looking at leadership as kind of our mantra for this upcoming year. We had several meetings that week with Representative Keeler in regards to the PRTF. On the 5th, participated in the CAP-LP meeting that Commissioner Mojo has spoken about. On the 6th, I met with Dan Mawley and Derek LaPointe and discussed common issues between the county and the city. Let's see. We also had some discussions that afternoon with Mr. Melton, Corey Bang, and Joe Olson in regards to Moorhead, City of Moorhead's request to potentially end the relationship at the resource recovery. We'll have some additional meetings coming up with that in early next year with our commissioners. We met with Mr. Melton on a series of other issues within the county that evening and participated in the holiday party. Just want to thank our employees that throughout the entire year work hard to make sure that happens. Working in government, we don't have the opportunity to do some of the things that private companies do. And so without their work throughout the year, not just on that evening, through various fundraisers, they're able to put on just a really fun evening. And so I really want to thank them for that. On the 8th, participated in a MACA meeting. We talked about the legislative sessions, budgets. On the 9th through 11th, I attended with the commission for the AMC annual conference. Again, appreciated the opportunity to talk with the human service group. I think when all was said and done, the 5 priorities that came out of AMC this year, I think are things that are extremely important to our county, increasing the solid waste tax, really looking at paid family leave and ESST, property tax relief, human service systems updates, and also mental health. And so on the 12th, I talked with Kathy McKay in regards to the issue with the Partnership for Health. Also participated in MCC JPA prep meeting. That meeting will be held this Thursday. On the 12th, participated in the meetings with Representative Keeler, and on the 13th. Yesterday, participated with Senator Kupek and Senator Hoffman. It was a pretty exciting day, as was mentioned. Senator Hoffman just had a great number of questions. I found out yesterday that he actually ran a juvenile facility up in Crookston. He said 40 years ago. So, and so he had a real good understanding of what we're trying to do, and so that was great. Participated yesterday in the PRTF owners meeting, and just following up on Commissioner Campbell, January 14th is when they hope to have a presentation for this entire board. The 17th participated today in that legislative chamber event. Just a note, right now we do have, we had a change order for the withdrawal management. We are targeting December 30th as move day. And so we're hoping that everything goes fine with our last couple licenses, and that can happen. Just a reminder that we have advertised for you all to attend a chamber event tomorrow at M-State from 8 to 9:30 if you wish. Also, just a reminder to our citizens, there's no board next week. And just a reminder, because we will not meet again, that we'll be having an open house on December 30th from 2 to 4 p.m. here in the chambers for Commissioner Gross. That concludes my report.
All right. Ms. Milton, anything?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Aaron? Jackie? No. You've got something.
I don't, Mr. Chair.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. Y'all, any additional business? God help you if you bring anything up. I think we broke some records here. Appreciate everybody's engagement. The meeting is adjourned.